What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for the review stream. Tottenham 1, Forest 2, Groundhog Day, pretty much every Premier League game at this current moment in time.
Another day, another defeat.
Another day, another defeat. 18 defeats this season in the Premier League. The records are coming, the unwanted records are coming for Ange Postecoglou. Sim, you were at the stadium last night. I mean, I saw your match review. You said, you know, the boos weren't as loud. I mean, we were listening to it with the earphones and they sounded really loud on the headphones.
Did they?
Yeah.
When I was in, half time, they were fairly loud. I thought full time, they didn't sound that particularly loud. I thought from being in the stadium, obviously there was a lot of empty seats. Clearly, a lot of people decided not to take up their tickets for this game or tried to sell them. I know a lot of people tried to sell them and were unable to. I got offered a lot of tickets, even though obviously I've got a season ticket, but I got offered, loads of people offering me tickets for this game. No one really wanted to go. And you could feel that in the stadium. Obviously, didn't help that we went 1-0 down 5 minutes in and then obviously 2-0 down quite quickly. But it was weird. There wasn't like, even though we were 2-0 down, there wasn't like this, you know, those frustration groans and
maybe
that, like
you were sitting in the West Stand.
Maybe I can hear it, but it's possible. But from where I was, I didn't really hear too much. Just like, it was just quiet. It was just like apathetic. It was like no one really cared that much about what was going on.
I don't think anyone in the West Stand ever cares too much about what's going on.
That's fair. So. Maybe it was the position I was in, but there wasn't like, I didn't really hear too much like people getting angry or anything. It was just like whatever kind of thing. Like, it's just they're used to it by now. I think a lot of fans, and obviously we nearly got back into it late on. Didn't quite happen. But yeah, it was a weird atmosphere. I think yesterday it was just, I would say from what I saw, it was quite apathetic to what was going on.
Probably an atmosphere that we've become accustomed to be honest, because I feel like it was similar at Wolves in the away game, and that's from the away end, you know what I mean? And you know, like I said, when we got back into the game at 3-2 at Wolves, there was barely a celebration in the away end. And when you're, you know, when you're 2 goals down and you get 1 back and there's still time to claw it back to 3-3, you'd expect, you know, fans to get behind them and start cheering on, but there was none of that. And I just feel like if the players can't get themselves up for Premier League games, how is anyone supposed to get themselves up for the game? However, on the flip side of that, I do feel the players were fairly up for it yesterday. It was just a common theme of Spurs making stupid errors early in games. We conceded 3 goals in the opening 20 minutes of that game. 3 of them, I mean, 1 was offside, Chris Wood slightly offside, but all 3 of those goals were stupid errors, in my opinion. All could have been avoided easily. And I just don't know what is going on with Vicario at the moment. What is going on with him? Because we saw him come back from injury. Unbelievable performances for the most part when he first came back. And now these like sloppy displays and sloppy moments and really worrying traits are starting to creep into his game. And the one that topped it up for me was Nottingham Forest's second goal. I'm just looking at that. It seems to get worse and worse every time I watch it, because the cross comes in. Van de Ven ain't strong enough against Chris Wood. But what is Vicario doing? Like, he dives. He starts diving pretty much as the ball is landing on Wood's head, and he's diving behind Wood. I mean, what's he trying to do? I just don't get what he's doing.
Yeah. And obviously, it's not the first time we've seen him flat from a corner, but in terms of a mistake like that, where he just gets nowhere near it and gets basically gets beaten in the air by a player heading the ball, which you should never be happening when you're a goalkeeper.
But he was never going to win that with the way he was diving. He dived behind him. Like, he was nowhere near him.
He'd mistimed it, clearly. What I would say in that situation is, if Vicario doesn't do that, it still probably goes in, because I think it is quite a good header from Wood and he's getting there. I don't think any of our defenders are getting there. You look at the defending, Wood's around, I think, 3 or 4 defenders, including Romero and Van de Ven, and he's the one winning it. No one else is challenging him well enough. Watching it again, does Van de Ven see Vicario coming in his eye line? Is that why he doesn't go with Wood with that header? Or was it a case of Vicario came out because he saw Wood was going to get it? one or the other. Either way, it was absolute shit show again at the back, and just a common theme. I mean, we'll touch on it later, but Kulusevski was saying in an interview, like, we keep conceding from crosses, and we have to look at why that keeps happening. And and cases like yesterday, just like personal responsibility, someone has to making sure Wood's not getting that. And as I say, he was pretty much alone in that penalty area in that moment, where not obviously there was a few Forest other players in the box, but where Wood was, there was like 3 or 4 Spurs defenders around him, and he's the one winning it. That should never be happening. I know he's good in the air, but between Vicario, Romero, Van de Ven, they got to be dealing with that situation. And the first one, I know it takes a deflection, but it just goes right through Vicario. It's so poor. And actually, I thought before that, Spurs, nothing too like special, but like Tell was getting on the ball, Odebel was getting on the ball. It looked like we were starting the game well, and then one corner, and bam, we concede such a sloppy goal. Like, it's so easy. And Vicario, I know he sees it a bit late and it's deflection, but he gets 2 hands to it, 2 good hands to it, and he just lets it slip through his fingers. And that's one of the only times I've seen him concede a goal where I've always said Vicario is a very, very good shot stopper, and very rarely does he concede a goal where you're like, he should really be saving that in terms of just like a shot. Well, we know that since he's come to the Premier League, he's definitely had his trouble from crosses and coming out for things. That's maybe been a bit of his Achilles heel and something that clubs are targeted. But that was definitely one of the rare goals where you look at that goal and you're like, he definitely should be saving that. That was so weak from him. And I think it's the 3rd time in the last 4 games we've conceded within the first 5 minutes. And it's just so frustrating that we're conceding these sloppy goals from just really, really bad errors.
Yeah, it really is. And when you give a team like Nottingham Forest, you know what Nottingham Forest are about, right? They try to get that early goal and they try and defend their lead for love nor money. They got an unbelievable defensive structure backed by Murillo and Milenkovic, who are unbelievable defenders. So if you give them essentially a 2-goal head start in the 20 minutes, you're pretty much on a hiding to nothing. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. But to be fair to Spurs, though, after going 2-0 down, I thought we played the whole game in their half pretty much. We were breaking. It's not like we weren't not breaking them down, because we were breaking them down. It wasn't like what you usually see with Nottingham Forest, where teams weren't able to get in behind them and create chances. I felt we were able to get in behind them and create chances. Odebel on the right-hand side was causing them no ends of problems. I thought he had the complete beating of Toffolo in that area of the park. Matisse Tell on the left-hand side, I thought he was giving Nico Williams no ends of problems as well. It was like the first time we've seen in a while both wingers just completely go really direct and get in behind and create chances. I thought both of them played really well, and they were a big reason why we'll be able to create these consistent chances against them. Richarlison has got to be doing a lot better with the chances that he's getting in the box, and I credit Spurs for the way they played yesterday, but the reality is, if you lose the game, it's hard to give the team credit after 18 losses in a season. But if you're going to just look at that game just in isolation, I don't buy into the narrative that a lot of Spurs fans are saying that, we were terrible yesterday, there was no cohesion and all that. I thought there was cohesion. I thought we were able to create consistent chances, but it was the finishing on the day that let us down. I mean, Richarlison had about 3 or 4 chances. Tell had a chance at the back post. Kulusevski has one saved off the line. Matt Sells made a couple of really good saves on the night. So I think when you're looking at how Forest have played all season, when I've watched them, I haven't seen a team give them as much problems as maybe we have last night. But look, the narrative is always going to be the same after you lose 18 games in a season.
Yeah, and it's not wrong, I think, in terms of fans being frustrated with the position we're in, and obviously not more than frustrated, angry, and it is disgraceful. And you can't really, I agree with you that when you've lost this many games, you know it's hard to take any sort of positives away from a performance when at the end of the day it's yet another loss, and we've suffered so many defeats this season, and it's inconceivable that a team like us, with the players that we have suffered this amount of defeats. And whatever performances or whatever sugarcoating you want, I think some people say my mic's not working. Is it working? So we'll try and get that back. Apologies, guys. Yeah, we back up? Yeah. All right. Yeah, as I was saying, I think it's fair for fans to feel that frustration. I'm not going to sit here and say that after another defeat, 18 defeats this season, that you have to take the positives if you don't feel like it. And if you want to just judge it on the result and say, look, whatever happened on that pitch is 18 defeats and it's not good enough, and you want to chuck mud or whoever you want to, that's fair enough. But I think absolutely, I thought the performance was a lot better than what we've seen for a lot of this season, in the recent weeks, and we were very unlucky not to come away with something out of that game. We did create a lot more chances, as you say, than most other teams do against Nottingham Forest. There's good chances as well, and I think what a difference it makes as well when. I think especially when you're playing against a team who got a low block like Forest, what a difference it makes when you have two wingers who are willing to take on their man, commit players and open up the space. Because I just think it made space for other players. I think Porro definitely enjoyed a lot more space as well, with Odebear forcing their fullback back and kind of creating the defence to be a bit that much deeper, allowing that more space for Porro to operate. And he obviously had a lot of joy with his crosses into the box and creating multiple chances for Richarlison and players in the box. Matisse Tell, I think, in that first half created, 4 chances. Some of his crosses was also good, and I thought he was having quite a bright game. But I thought Odebear in that first half was fantastic. Some of his crosses, flashes across the face of goal. And Richarlison has just got to be putting that chance away. I don't know if he takes his eye off the ball or
which one are you talking about?
The one in the first half where he kind of gets a big head on it, but doesn't kind of fully commit to that header.
You're talking about when he was doing star jumps in the penalty box, because the ball comes in, right, and he jumps, but he doesn't turn his head towards the goal. It felt like he did a star jump pretty much and just headed it away from the goal. I don't understand.
Gets good contact on it,
but all he had to do was hit it with a bit of conviction towards the goal, and that's a goal.
Yeah, I don't know whether, because he did clatter into the post. I wonder if for a split second, he was worried. He kind of was worried about clattering into the post. So he kind of pulled back a tiny bit, which obviously made the difference. But in that situation, I absolutely agree. Thump it into the back of there. It's an open goal. He's got to be putting that away. And then you get a goal back for half time, and obviously the momentum could swing. Instead of, obviously, we only got the goal back with 5 minutes to go. The only credit I'll give Richarlison is, despite the fact he missed, I think on the day, the stats say he missed 4 big chances, which is an incredible amount, especially for a striker in the Premier League. You can't be missing 4 big chances. But credit to him for not giving up, I guess, because he ended up getting his goal. And yes, you could say it's too little too late. And obviously it came right at the end where there wasn't enough time to really get back in the game. But I think other strikers maybe would have let those chances get to their head a bit more. And at least he just kept getting the positions, kept getting on the end of things. And he got the reward for it with his goal. But at the end of the day, he was also one of the big reasons why we didn't win that game. That's the reality.
Absolutely. But I mean, if Solanke plays up top, is he getting those chances
that's the thing
was yesterday? I don't think he was. And that is a credit to him, because it's very hard to get in those positions against a Nottingham Forest like that sit very deep with 2 very aggressive centre-backs as well. So he was seeing a lot of the ball and being in good positions, but you've got to be doing better. You have to put the ball in the back of the net, and you've got to basically, against this Nottingham Forest side, you've got to basically take every chance as it's going to be your last of the game, right? Because you don't. Well, it was different yesterday, but usually chances don't come so often against this Nottingham Forest side. So it was very poor, and you've got to be more clinical than that. Matisse Tell as well had one at the back post. He's got to be finishing that. He blazed that one wide. And
that's the thing with us at the moment. It just seems as though every time we make a mistake, right, we get punished ruthlessly. And then for that Tell chance, they make a mistake. Nico Williams, I think it gets trapped under his foot, or I think he actually stoops to head it away. He doesn't deal with it at all, falls to Tell, and he screws it up, and he doesn't take advantage. And that is, at this level, you've got to take advantage of the opposition mistakes.
We're not ruthless enough. We're not killers. And I feel like when you're judging this game as opposed to the last month of Premier League games, we probably created more in this game than we have done in all those games combined, literally. I can't remember a game where we've created that much, probably since Southampton, Man City, those kind of games. When have we created so much?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably in terms of even the amount of chances.
Maybe the Frankfurt first leg, we created a similar amount. But those 2 games are the last 2 games in a while that we've actually looked okay and decent from an attacking perspective and been able to create consistent chances. So that is a positive to take away from the game, but you can sit here and take away as many positives that you want, but it's another loss.
Before we get into further in the game, what was your thoughts on the decision to play Van de Ven and Romero yesterday?
I was very surprised. I mean, we put Romero in the predicted lineup. I was very surprised Van de Ven played. He did take them both off at half time, and he said that was a pre-planned sub. I mean, if you're planning to, I mean, it didn't really do us any favours, did it? Playing Romero and Van de Ven.
Yeah, I actually thought Davis and Danso probably did a bit better when they came on. I actually didn't think they played that well. Van de Ven and Romero, to be honest.
Romero was shocking, to be fair. I felt like Romero was playing to get sent off. Like literally, he should have got sent off in the game. He had that one dirty challenge at the beginning where he didn't get booked, and he should have got booked. He got booked. I know. Then he had that other challenge where Bentancur makes the foul, and then he comes steaming in, studs up. I can't remember which Forest player it was on, and he could have got a straight red for that. And then he got booked later on in the first half. So I mean, he made 3 minimum bookable offences. He definitely should have got sent off yesterday, Romero.
Yeah, and I thought, for the goal that was ruled out offside, didn't cover themselves much glory for that one. For the goal the second goal we conceded, Wood puts himself in between Romero and Van de Ven. Then wasn't particularly great on that one. And I think it is a bit of an odd decision to play them both. His reasoning was, especially with Van de Ven, he wants to get him a bit more used to playing 2 games in a week, because I don't know, this season he hasn't done it that much, and clearly and the one time he did I think he got injured. So he was trying to kind of ease him into that kind of schedule. But he said if the game would have been on Sunday, they wouldn't have played at all. It would have just been Danso and Davis. But because we had that extra day, he thought he would get them in. But it's a bit of a weird decision when, especially a team like Forest, you want all your attacking subs available. I don't know if we didn't use Maddison, did we, yesterday? So going into a game, planning to take off both your centre-backs, basically planning to waste 2 substitutions on swapping your centre-backs, I think it's a bit of an odd decision.
I mean, Maddison was the only one attacking player that we didn't bring on. We brought on everyone else.
I know, I just think it's a bit of an odd decision to go into a game saying we know we're gonna waste 2 of our subs on swapping 2 centre backs at half time. It's just a bit odd.
I agree, but if he wants to get Van de Ven up to speed and give him 45 minutes, why not play Van de Ven and Danso then?
As I'm saying, maybe one, but subs should be your ability to change the game within the context of to make your tactical tweaks and all of that, and to go into a game already deciding 2 of our 5 subs, which is your ability to influence that game, is going to be on 2 centre backs getting changed at half time. I just think that's a bit of a strange call, I would say, from Ange Postecoglou. I think if it's 1, I can understand it, but to wait, basically you're wasting 2 subs in terms of your ability to change the game.
Well, he's using these games as what they are right now, and pretty much just a glorified training routine up until the Bodo Glimt game, and that's what those substitutions suggested. Just get Van de Ven a bit up to speed before the Bodo Glimt game. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, and I wonder if they'll play against Liverpool or not.
Maybe they'll get another 45 minutes.
Maybe.
But, I think Danso should start against Liverpool. I would play Danso and Van de Ven probably, and maybe change Van de Ven for Romero at some point during the game. But yeah, it did seem like, genuinely, it seemed like Romero was trying to get himself sent off yesterday. It really felt like that. Another player who impressed me but didn't cover himself too much in glory of the first goal was Pedro Porro. I thought it was a bit of a lazy clearance that found its way to Anderson, but apart from that, he was really dangerous throughout. Pedro Porro, his ball playing ability, his corners that he was putting in there as well. That one right on the money for Kulusevski, so unlucky not to go into the back of the net. Unbelievable clearance from, I think it was Harry Toffolo on the line. But yeah, I mean, our best players last night were Pedro Porro, Odegaard and Tell, pretty much.
Yeah.
I thought Sarr put in another bit of a no-show. Kulusevski doesn't look really match fit, really. Good to get him some minutes in the legs. I mean, we're going to need him at full fitness for Bodo, so hopefully he can keep building up that fitness. But yeah, I mean, no one apart from those 3 players I thought were top-notch.
Yeah, I thought I gave Porro my man of the match. I thought he was actually fantastic. I think a lot of his deliveries were what basically, actually, when you look at it, I think he was pretty much our most creative outlet on the day. I think we actually relied on him a lot with his delivery from deep positions to create chances. I think pretty much most of Richarlison's chances came from brilliant deliveries from Pedro Porro down that right-hand side. I thought his set pieces were good. The goal, he got the assist as well. I actually think he's been in fairly good form in recent weeks, Porro, to be fair. And I think yesterday, that's the kind of Porro when he's at his best form, when he's getting as many crosses in the box as that, when he's adding that quality in delivery. That's when you know Porro's playing well. And I thought he was really good yesterday, Pedro Porro. I thought it was a really top performance. And he's hard to handle when he's in that kind of form, Pedro Porro. And I think he was one of the big Achilles heels for Forest. Because when he picks up the ball in those deep positions, when they're playing a low block, either they have to come out to him and open up a bit, or they have to allow him that time and space to cross it. And either way, they couldn't really deal with it a lot yesterday. I think Porro was the main man unlocking their defence, to be honest, for a lot of the game. So I think he was my man of the match. I thought he played really well. And as I say, with the wingers, it was I think it was the first time we saw them start together on the wing. And you know, we've always said we need wingers who are able to dribble on those outside when they're kind of hugging the touchline, and they were much more suited, I think, to playing those roles than maybe Sonny's been. I think maybe even Johnson at times. Obviously, on the flip side, they maybe not getting in the box as much. But I think when it comes to them being on the touchline and taking people on, they just look so much more dangerous, and they look like making things happen much more than Son and Johnson, I would say.
The thing is with Odegaard, though, and I've noticed this with him, the majority of games that he plays, he drifts in and out of games a bit too much. Like sometimes he's just not, you just don't notice him for like a good 20 minutes in a game. And then like for the last 20 minutes of the first half, I thought he was brilliant, relentless on that right-hand side. But then apart from that, he didn't really do too much else. It was mainly just those last 20 minutes of the first half. He gets taken off for Brennan Johnson, and Brennan Johnson did absolutely nothing when he came on. But Odegaard, I think he needs, I know he's young and he's still learning his trade and all that, but he needs to be able to kind of last the distance a bit.
Yeah, I think obviously he's had some big hamstring injuries this season, so it's all about, I think you don't want to put too much kind of strain on him. I can understand you don't want him to redo that injury, so I'm guessing that's in the back of our minds. But 100%, I think going forward, he has to influence the game as much as possible. I think his final third delivery, which is, I've actually been fairly impressed with his crossing ability, his final third ability when he gets to the byline. I don't think it's terrible.
It's a bit hit and miss.
It is a bit hit and miss, but I think it's not as bad as I thought it was. I think it's quite decent. He's got an ability to pick people out, so that's decent. And obviously, I think he looks a lot better on the right than he initially did at the beginning of the season. Maybe he's worked on it, but he looked a lot better at the beginning of the season on the left-hand side, and I thought on the right recently he's looked a lot better. So that's really good as well. So I'm very encouraged by him. But yeah, I think obviously he's not the finished article by any stretch. He's got a few areas to improve.
Jed Spence as well. I mean, he was not great yesterday. I thought, yeah, I mean, he wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not kind of impacting the games as he used to, or as he was earlier on in the season. I feel like this has happened over the past month or so. Hasn't been able to take that game by the scruff of the neck like he was, and being that like bull in a china shop kind of thing, and just marauding down that left-hand side. I feel like a doggy is definitely playing at a much higher level than him at the moment. And again, goes back to Ange Postecoglou's decision to put a doggy in the first team now, and I think that's completely warranted, isn't it?
At the moment, I think a doggy's well outperforming Spencer over the last few games, and it's good to have competition. I don't think, as you said, I don't think Spencer was bad or yesterday or anything. I think it was like a solid performance, but when you go back to his performances probably a month ago or 6 weeks ago, he was like our best player on the pitch and he was outstanding. Not quite at that level at the moment, but a doggy over the last few games pretty much has been at that level, and he's been really, really great. So at the moment, the doggy, I think, has that shirt in terms of, I think Porro and the doggy at the moment should be our first choice fullbacks right now.
Yeah.
Until Spence wins that place back.
Another player that I was surprised that started yesterday was Rodrigo Bentancur, because I thought Bissouma was going to start the game, and we were going to, it was definitely a lot less rotation than I thought it was going to be this Forest game. And Bentancur, I thought, he was doing fairly well in terms of every time the ball was coming into that area of the pitch, he was recycling the ball and being fairly aggressive. I mean, he didn't even need to be overly aggressive in this game because Forest didn't really come into our half that much. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't maybe as strong as it has been in the two Frankfurt games. But what he does do is he just keeps the ball moving and ticking over, doesn't he? I think it was a bit up and down from Bentancur, but mostly good.
Yeah, it was a bit hit and miss. I agree with that. I think there was some really decent stuff in terms of his just ability to stop Forest on the transition. They didn't really hit us that many times over. I mean, obviously they did in the first 10 minutes, but after that didn't really hit us too many times in the transition. I think that's a lot to do with Bentancur, but there were a few times where he did look like a stretch. Remember in the second half, Hudson-Odoi completely rinsed him, didn't he? And thankfully it came to nothing, but there were times as well where he did look a bit overrun, and he played 90 minutes, didn't he? He played 90 minutes. So I don't know if he needed to do that, but you could have brought on Basuma maybe, but I don't think it was a bad game, but he definitely was much better in the two Frankfurt games, 100%. I don't think it was his best game. But I thought Bergvall had a great cameo.
He always does, man. Yeah. Bergvall, you know what you're going to get these days. Just come on, quicken the tempo, be a bit direct, show that kind of ball carrying ability, and actually just show that he wants it and show that he wants to drive forward and make an impact. And I think that's exactly what he did. He made one unbelievable crossfield pass. I think it was to Brennan Johnson out on the right hand side. I mean, that pass was incredible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of his long range passing was good. And one other thing to note, I think obviously we in the second half, obviously, I think we had them penned in and we were creating quite a few chances. Sells was making a lot of good saves. And then I think for one of the first times this season, we actually changed it to a 4-4-2 for the last, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we didn't get worse, which is a rarity. I think, to be fair, I can't remember too often we've gone with a 4-4-2 with Richarlison and Solanke as our strikers. Usually it's Son up front with Solanke. But this was one of the few times we've seen Solanke and Richarlison together. And we're whipping in crosses in. I actually think Richarlison, he got a lot of help with the fact that Solanke was taking a bit of the presence away from him. And I think Richarlison was able to get a few chances while Solanke was on the pitch. Solanke himself, don't recall him getting too many chances, but I think just his presence caused a bit more chaos in that box. And when Porro was whipping those crosses in, when he had two good aerial threats to aim at, it helped us a lot in those last 20 minutes. And actually, I thought it allowed us to create a lot more chances against this Forest side. So hopefully we get to see that a bit more in the last few games of the season, Solanke and Richarlison.
Yeah, it's true, but I feel like Nottingham Forest, that's their game plan, isn't it? Just to get deeper and deeper and deeper, protect that lead. And this is how they've been playing all season. Just defend like animals, even though they conceded a lot more chances maybe in this game than they have done. Look, the narrative completely changes if some of those chances go in and we do win the game or we do take a point away from the game. But the reality is that's what Nottingham Forest, this is what they've been doing all season, getting that lead at the start of the game. No matter what tactics the other team employ, they get deeper and deeper throughout the second half, and they ultimately come away with the points more times than not. And that's what happened.
Right. What's that got to do with the formation change?
Because I'm saying that as much as the formation change looked good, it still played into the way Nottingham Forest still got away with the result, and they still, we still didn't put the ball in the back of the net enough to take away anything from the game. So it didn't really make too much of an impact. Well,
that's fine. But I'm just, in terms of result, it didn't. I'm just saying in previous games when we've changed to 4-4-2, it hasn't worked at all in terms of the amount of chances we create. Yeah. But on this occasion, it did, and that's.
I don't remember the last time we did it. When's the last time we even did it?
When was the last time we switched to a 4-4-2? We've done it a few times.
Done it this season.
Yeah, a few times this season. We've done it. We've mentioned it a lot. The fact that whenever we go to a 4-4-2, it completely flops. It's happened. We've done it quite a few times. I can't remember the last time we did it, but we have done it quite a few times this season, and it hasn't been good. But on this occasion, I actually thought changing to 4-4-2 really helped us and helped us to, sustain that pressure and create quite a few chances.
We moved to a 4-4-2.
Yeah, I'm saying that was the only time we've done it with Rishi and Solanke. Usually, we've done it with Son up front.
Yeah.
I remember Ipswich at home, we changed to it and it was terrible. I'm trying to remember, did we do it at Wolves? No, I don't think we did. I can't remember the other times we did it. I think we've done it before as well with Scarlett there, potentially. Maybe was it Fulham away? Did Scarlett come on that game? I can't remember exactly, but there's been a few times we've done it and it hasn't worked. But it was not a bad change yesterday when we went to it, and it helped us, I think. And hopefully going forward, I'm saying that's an option with Solanke and Richarlison together, because they just haven't been fit together. Let's be honest. How when one's been out, the other's been fit, and vice versa. So it's been rare they've both been fit. So let's hope we see that maybe for if we in games where we're behind and we really need it, we see Solanke and Richarlison a bit more together.
Yeah. It's just extremely frustrating just to watch the team lose yet again. I know like these games don't really mean much and they're just a glorified training session for the Europa League, but it's just so hard to watch, isn't it? I mean, I know yesterday was a little bit better and we created chances, but to watch your team get beat week in, week out, 1 point above 17th, it's just so hard to continually do this week in, week out. It really is.
It is. And I think a lot of fans at a breaking point at the moment. I understand after each defeat in the Premier League, there's going to be a massive uproar, and all the stats are going to come out. Look how bad we are, all this kind of stuff. But we are still in that Europa League, and that's what we got to that's what we got to focus on, really. As much as it's painful in this Premier League, and if we do finish 17th, which is not an unlikely possibility right now,
that Spurs West Ham game is a 17th playoff.
A 17th playoff. If we can win that Europa League, then it could still be a special season for us.
Yeah. But look, that's our take on the game yesterday, losing 2-1 to Nottingham Forest, and what I thought, in terms of what we deserved out that game, we didn't get what we deserved, and I felt like a draw minimum is what we deserved out that game. I thought we were the better team on the day, but we're just not getting the rub of the green at the moment in the Premier League, and that's what it comes down to, and we're not clinical enough. So that is the review. Let's move on and go into player ratings, starting off with Vicario. Sim gives him a 2. I give him a 3. Probably a 2 is fairer, to be honest, because apart from the mistakes that led to goals, he pretty much had nothing to do in the game.
Yeah.
So every shot we faced that went in the back of the net, pretty much, apart from the Gibbs-White one in the second half.
He did make a save from Gibbs-White right at the beginning of the game, didn't he?
That's true.
From like 30 yards, but it should be
saving. He gets a whole point for that save from me.
He should be saving that, though, shouldn't he?
He should be, but he should be saving the ones that go in as well. Like the first one, I know he sees it a bit late because of the Bentancur deflection, but still, you've got to be doing a lot better than what he did. The one that was offside, I mean, that was terrible. And then the one that actually went in for the second goal, I just don't understand how a keeper of his caliber can do what he did for that goal. It just mind boggles me how bad that actually was. Chris Wood, the ball is landing on Chris Wood's head and he decides to jump out at that moment in time behind him. That's nowhere near him. I mean, it just boggles my mind.
Yeah, and obviously off the back of 2 mistakes against Wolves as well, where, for 2 goals we conceded, that put us 2-0 down. And off the back as well, a shaky performance against Chelsea. It's not been a great few weeks for him. Obviously the Frankfurt games, he wasn't bad, but in the Premier League over the last few weeks, definitely some worrying performances from him. And especially the fact that, I still do regard him as an unbelievable shot stopper, but all of a sudden, that first goal we conceded yesterday, the first goal we conceded against Wolves was so soft. Should be saving both of them, like really, really soft goals. And then look, we know him coming for crosses, that's something he's always kind of had to work on, I feel, ever since he's come here. And that obviously second goal was emblematic of that poor decision to come out, completely miss the ball and give Wood a free header. But I also think obviously in that goal, the defenders have culpability there as well, because I think if Vicario stays on his line, I don't think he saves that header. And we got to wonder why he's got a free header in the box. So the defence is definitely culpable for that, but Vicario just comes flying like Superman and missing the ball completely.
What is it with Vicario at the moment? Like, is he struggling to get himself up for these league games as well? Like, as well as like people like Cuti, Romero? Like, he's supposed to be one of the leaders in the dressing room and on the pitch, and his performances seem to be declining, getting worse and worse as the Premier League games progress. So I just don't understand what's going on with him. Is it time to put Kinski in for the Premier League games?
I wouldn't be against it. Vicario's still playing well in Europa, but I wouldn't mind giving Kinski some run out. I don't think he deserves to not play again between now and the end of the season. I know Vicario's our number one, But I wouldn't mind seeing Kinski in the Premier League and maybe take Vicaro's mind off these Prem games because he's not playing well at the moment.
Pedro Porro up next. Him gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. He was a constant threat throughout with his ball playing ability. Most of our big chances all came through his brilliant crossing, corners as well on the money. There was one that for Kulusevski. He provided the assist as well for Richarlison. I thought he put in a really good display, but I thought his defending for the first goal left a little bit to be desired about, and it was pretty poor from him from the first goal.
Yeah, I mean, I have to watch the first goal back, but I don't know how much you can put on Porro. After what was his clearance, was it? Yeah, but that goal, there was so many things wrong. I don't know if we can put that on Porro, but I thought for the most part, he was brilliant, to be honest. I thought most of our good attacking things came through him. I think his delivery was spot on. I think he's one of the few right-backs in the league who's capable of that kind of performance. Just constant, brilliant deliveries from out wide if you give him space. And he was putting it on the money time and time for Richarlison, and his set pieces were fantastic as well. I think he was our best creative outlet on the day. And in fact, I think I'll go as far as say we were very reliant on his creativity yesterday with how good his delivery was and his constant threats down the line. So really, really good performance from Porro for me.
Cuti Romero up next. Him gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. Another Premier League game, another shocker, to be honest, from Romero, in my opinion. Definitely should have been sent off. Only played 45 minutes and he made 3 bookable offences, and one of them could have even been a straight red, in my opinion. It just felt like that kind of old Conte Cuti Romero came back, where the kind of red mist kind of descends and he was just going in. And you saw that. You've seen that kind of creep in the last couple of games as well, even against Frankfurt. I mean, I know we were, defending for our lives in the latter stage of the game, but, he's going into challenges full-blooded. And in those kind of games, when we're defending a lead, you don't really mind it. But when you're 2-0 down in a game like Nottingham Forest and he's doing his best to get sent off, it really is a bit poor from him. And from a defensive capability as well, he just can't seem to get himself up for these Premier League games, and I think yesterday was another example of it.
Yeah, I only remember the challenge he got booked for. I don't remember the other ones, but I thought in general his defending, he was switching off. I think he switched off for the second goal. The goal that got ruled out for offside, he didn't cover himself much score with that, allowing Chris Wood to get in behind. Van de Ven as well, we'll get into him. And I just felt like when in that first half, when they were on the transition, especially early on, he just didn't seem switched on, and I think it was costing us time and time again. And I think obviously as the half wore on, he was a bit better. But I think those opening 15 minutes, he was just a bit all over the place, and he just wasn't great. And as you say, there was some meaty challenges in there, which on another day a referee could have taken a different decision with some of those challenges. So yeah, it wasn't a great game by him.
Mickey Van de Ven, 5s all round for Mickey. Again, another player that only lasted 45 minutes, and it wasn't the kind of usual Mickey Van de Ven which we've been accustomed to seeing. I thought, from a defensive standpoint, he let a few things get by him. The goal that Chris Wood wins in the air, I think Mickey's got to be doing a lot better in that situation. There was one really good challenge in there, but apart from that, I don't remember too many good things from Mickey.
Yeah, agree with that. Wasn't his best game. I think he struggled aerially with the aerial threat of Chris Wood, especially when crosses were coming in. That's something that I've criticised Mickey of. Such a tall guy, but doesn't dominate enough aerially with considering his size. And obviously he's so good at running in behind, but that's definitely a bit of a weakness. And I think when he's defending crosses, that's something he's really got to work on. You got to remember he's still, very young, so that's definitely something he can add to his game. But at the moment, that's something he's struggling with, I feel.
Jed Spence up next. 6s all round for Jed. Yeah, it was an okay display from Jed. Nothing great, nothing bad. I think he handled his side pretty well from a defensive standpoint. Not much got past him throughout the whole evening. But I just felt like he could have done a bit more to impact the play going forward. It was nice, a few nice little pass and goes, but apart from that, he didn't really get himself in any dangerous positions.
Yeah, I think there was some nice link up between him and Tell at times, and he did get to the byline at times quite impressively. But as well, we've seen a lot more from Spence in other games this season in recent weeks, and a lot more chances created, a lot more real kind of fearlessness, and I'm not seeing that at the moment from Jed. But I agree, he kind of dominated Elanga. Elanga didn't really have much in this game. But on the flip side, when they're 2-0 up, maybe they didn't feel the need to get Elanga in those positions too often. So you could say that as well. I don't think it was bad, but it wasn't his best.
Rodrigo Bentancur up next. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. He did well just sitting at the base and kept recycling the ball. And every time the ball came in our half, he was the one gobbling it up and spraying it on. But there was quite a few misplaced passes there, and there was a few kind of sloppy moments defensively where he let a few players bypass him. But yeah, it was a bit up and down from Bentancur.
Yeah, I think there was some really good stuff in the middle, like when Forest, they were transitioning and he was able to just get his foot in and get the ball forward and make stopping the kind of the trouble at source. But there was a few times he did look a bit leggy and a bit overrun. Maybe he could have been brought off earlier. I think maybe he was getting a bit tired during the game. But I think it was an okay performance. Wasn't spectacular. He was a lot better against Frankfurt.
Pape gets a 4 from Sim and a 5 from me. And I thought the first half he was really poor. A lot of energy, not much quality, which, we've been saying a lot with Sarr this season, to be honest. And I did feel, though, as in the second half, he did improve a little bit and he was driving the team forward, and it definitely better in the second half than he was in the first, but still nothing great.
Yeah, I think just quiet. I think where we didn't see him anywhere near enough was when we were trying to break Forest down and we're attacking. He's just not really doing much. He's not getting involved anywhere near enough, or he's not showing enough quality when he's in that final third. And the way we play and the position he takes up, we've seen him do it. We've seen him show quality in that final third, but just recently he hasn't been showing anywhere near enough. And I think yesterday was another example of just him having lack of involvement, I think.
Decky up next. Him gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. Unfortunately, a poor display from Decky. Not much was coming off for him throughout. What was he on the pitch for about 70 minutes? And yeah, just physically, I don't think he's there just yet. Didn't seem to have too much quality on the ball either. He had that one chance as well, which he could have, definitely had a goal with the unbelievable goal line clearance from Toffolo. But apart from that, I don't really remember him being any sort of danger for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, and to be fair, that was quite a good header. Did get it beyond Sells, and it was really unfortunate that Toffolo had got back on the line for that moment. But I thought he was just giving the ball away sloppily, very easily dispossessed. You could see he's trying, whenever he gets the ball, he's trying these little flicks and he's trying, which I don't mind Decky doing, but the problem is I don't think it ever came off for him yesterday at all. And usually he comes off 2 or 3 times a game where he's looking sharp. But yesterday he just seemed a bit sluggish, wasn't quite on the ball. I don't remember too many quality moments in the final third. I think he had a shot as well, which Sells pretty comfortably saved in the first half. Other than that, don't remember too many chances he created. Should be, expect more from him.
Yeah, with him being out for a month and a half.
He said he had a stress fracture.
Yeah, but look, it's all about him just building up that fitness and getting him back to peak fitness for those Bodo games. That's what it's all about for Decky. Odebear up next, 7s all round for Wilson. And yeah, I thought he had a fairly strong display, particularly in the last 20 minutes of the first half. He was being a bit of a demon in those 20 minutes and beating Toffolo, I think, 2 or 3 times in the one-on-one dribbles. And he was looking dangerous. He was getting good balls into the box as well, providing a really good outlet for us on that right-hand side. And it's just something that we haven't seen all season from our right wing, because Brennan Johnson can't do that. And we need Odebear. He's got a skill set that we desperately need in this team. And if he can do that consistently over the course of 90 minutes, we've got a really good wing on our hands. I just feel like he drifts in and out of games a bit too much.
I think Porro, you could see, was definitely, I don't know whether it was instructional or it was his intention, but constantly finding Odebear down the right-hand side in space, which is why I think that is the advantage you get when you invert the fullbacks. I think you saw it yesterday where Porro's tucked inside a bit and it just allowed Odebear to be isolated constantly against the fullback. And when you've got a player who could have the beating of his fullback in that position, all of a sudden it makes all the difference. And I think Odebear was getting to the byline constantly, getting balls across the face of goal. One of them flashed across the face of goal. Another one, he found Richarlison, who's got to be burying that. He also linked up with Tell a couple of times. There was one time Tell pulls it back to him on the edge of the box, and he had a decent effort, which was pushed wide by Sells, I think, in the first half as well. I think I'm not sure if it was at 1-0 or 2-0, but he had a decent effort from outside the box. So I thought it was a really good first half from Odebear, but I did think he tied in that second and was rightfully, well, it could have been him or Tell, to be honest. Could have been taken off for Brentwood when we brought on Brennan. But yeah, I was encouraged by Odebear again. A good performance down the right-hand side, and really, I think, really helped kind of break Forest down.
Matisse Tell up next. 7's all round for Matisse as well. Yeah, it was decent. It was decent from Matisse. Maybe a 7 is a bit of a stretch. Maybe a 6 or 6.5 or whatever. But he was a threat down that left-hand side. He was showing his dribbling ability. He was having consistent shots at goal and having a go at the Nottingham Forest side. And I thought Nico Williams did, have a bit of a handball on his hands with Tell. And I like the way that he's seeming to grow in confidence on the ball. Like, he's getting the ball and he's trying to take on his man, trying to have shots on, trying to take a dig. But it's all going to come down to that chance at the back post. He's got to be finishing that. That was our best chance of the first half, and it was really unfortunate what happened, because you've got to be more clinical than that.
But it wasn't even close. He completely fluffed it. It was nowhere near, and that's going to be really frustrating, especially with that kind of chance when Forest have opened the door, which they rarely do with a mistake. You've got to at least test the keeper or something. To completely fluff it like that was very frustrating. But I did think he was a big threat down the left-hand side. And actually, I remember there was one good cross to Richarlison, who should have been doing better with a header, which went wide. There was some good link-up with Odebear. I thought, again, similar to Odebear down that side, constantly finding him in moments where he's able to isolate Nico and giving him a lot of trouble. And I think having both wingers in those situations really helped us. And it's something that we rarely have been able to see this season. And I think in the first half, especially, he was creating a lot of chances. Second half, maybe wasn't in the game as much. I actually thought he ended the game fairly strong, was getting on the ball quite a bit and trying to make things happen. I was pretty happy with him. I think, by and large, pretty positive display. And I do think he's getting better and better as the games go on, which is encouraging. But the games are running out. So I guess we're running out of games to make judgments of him. But, from what you're seeing from Tell at the moment, like... if the Bodo game was this week, would you start him over Son if Son was fit?
No, I don't think I would. I'll still start Sonny.
What if he has a good game against Liverpool?
It depends how good. But I still think a rested Sonny, if he comes into it in full fitness, he's got qualities that Tell doesn't have. So I would still start Sonny, albeit I do think Tell is improving over the last couple of weeks, but I don't think it's been enough to displace Sonny out of the team just yet.
Fair.
Next up is Richarlison. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. A constant threat, to be honest, in the number 9 position, getting in those goal-scoring opportunities. He just seems much more of a threat to the opposition goal than Dom Solanke has pretty much since coming back from his injury or all season, to be honest. And I think his goal tally since coming back has proved that as well, consistently getting goals at the moment. Richarlison yesterday was no different, ended up finally getting the goal in his 4th or 5th or 6th chance of the game. He's just not clinical enough by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like he troubled the Nottingham Forest back two more than a lot of strikers have this season. That's the reality. And he forced one good save out of Matt Sells, and then missed a couple of other really big chances where he's got to put it in the back of the net. So a lot of good in terms of, kept plodding away, getting in good positions, being aggressive up against a very aggressive back two in Milenkovic and Murillo. But the downside is that he's got to be a lot more clinical than he was.
Yeah, it's hard to know how to feel about this Richarlison display, because, as you say, I think he was a very different kind of number 9 display than we've been afforded by Solanke. Not to say it's much better, but obviously because Solanke drops a lot deeper, he gets involved in the play, he holds the ball up. We didn't see that much of Richarlison doing that yesterday. But what we did see him is in the box, constantly causing a nuisance, getting on the end of crosses, causing problems for the Forest centre-backs. And to be fair to him, he was constantly getting chances. And, a lot of people talk about, it's interesting, I saw a tweet yesterday saying, oh, look how many chances Richarlison had with his head. Why don't we ever swing those crosses in for Solanke? Well, I was looking at the stats, and Porro this season, I think, is top of the league in the whole division for crosses into the box. So I doubt he's there doing that when Solanke's not playing. I'm sure a lot of it is when Solanke's playing in the number 9. So at what point do you have to say, well, how much of a responsibility is it of Solanke to start getting on the end of things and getting in the box? Because Richarlison has not been in the team for that long, and he seems to be able to do it a lot more.
But you got to say that Solanke, when he plays, drops a lot deeper than what Richarlison was doing yesterday.
But that's my point. Like, is that an instruction? Is he telling Richarlison, you're not dropping deep, but Solanke, you drop deep? You know what I mean? Or is it at some point what responsibility is on Solanke to be getting ahead of his man, getting those chances and making space for himself, which Richarlison seems being able to do at the moment?
But surely it's a instruction, because he wasn't doing that at Bournemouth last season. At Bournemouth, he was consistently, there ready to pounce in the box.
Well, I don't know what it is, but I can't see like we're picking all these crosses in. As I say, Porro is the top in the division for crosses whipped in the box. I just think Solanke needs to take some responsibility for not getting as many chances as he should be getting as well. I don't think he's blameless in that. Anyway, back on Richarlison. I was happy that he was able to get those chances, and it was good to see a striker, get, especially against a really good defence, get as many chances as he did, especially given that in recent weeks Tottenham have been struggling to create those many opportunities. So that was good, but unfortunately, he was the big reason we lost, because most of our chances did fall to him. The one in the first half, he's just got to be braver. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he took his eye off the ball. I don't know if he was worried about clashing into the post, but he's got to be burying that header. He's got to be putting it into the empty net. That's got to be a goal 9 times out of 10. That has to be a goal. I think he maybe bottled that a bit, that moment. There was one chance where he got a bit of luck, it deflected into his path, and he had a one-on-one with Sells. Again, I think kind of pulled out of it a bit. He did lack conviction when it came there. Sells just made himself big. Whether it's conviction or composure, whatever you want to call it, I think he should have been putting that chance away as well.
It's still I think it's a harder chance than it looks, because he's very close to Matt Sells in that moment in time.
I understand it, but I think if a bit more quality and he puts that chance away, and it's a really good opportunity. Sells does well to come out quickly, don't get me wrong, but I think Richarlison will be disappointed he didn't put that away as well. I think, to be fair, other than those 2 chances, I think the other header he had, which forced a very good save out of Sells, you just got to say that's a really good header. That's a really good save, sorry. So that's unfortunate. And then
down low really quickly.
Yeah, and then the goal we scored was a great header. I think you got to give him credit. It was a really good header right into the corner.
Yeah.
And I did think it helped him when Solanke came on and they had that little bit of a partnership going, and also it took the attention away from him a bit, so he was able to get a bit more space in the box. So that helped him. So, look, I think if we see more from that of Richarlison, I'll be happy if we can start putting those away. And apparently, that's now 4 and 6 for him in his last 6. So fair play to him on that.
You actually look back at when he went on that run of scoring like 11 goals in like 12 or 13 games, whatever it was last season. Since then, his goal scoring record, goals per game ratio is actually really good.
When he's on the pitch.
Yeah, we just can't seem to get him on the pitch enough.
Yeah, so I think you could probably say he was one of the main reasons we got chances, but he's also one of the main reasons we missed them as well. It's hard to be harsh, judge him harshly. But yeah, look, I gave him a 5 because he missed 4 big chances. You just can't miss that level. That's that amount at this level, I think.
Kevin Danso comes on at halftime. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I thought he performed well from a defensive standpoint, but where I got frustrated with Danso, I just felt like he made a number of loose passes just into the centre of the park when we're looking to build up attacks from the back. And it was just a bit frustrating watching it. But yeah, I have no other issues with his display, really. Yeah,
I think he was actually pretty good by and large. There was, I don't know how, from where I was sitting, he had a shot from about 25 yards, which looks fairly close. I don't know if it actually was on TV.
Which one?
He had a shot on his left foot from like 25 yards, which
it was fairly
wide.
Close. Yeah,
that looked quite close when I was watching it. I haven't seen it back, but so that was decent. I actually thought he was very, very brave in terms of his. He was basically being like another midfielder at times, especially when we were trying to break him down. There was a couple of really frustrating moments where he got on the ball in a midfield position and his pass went astray when we really needed it to be on point. But I think dominated Woods for when he was on. Obviously, Albioni came on, and actually Albioni did some quite good hold-up play. But I think by and large, he dealt with both those players quite well. The only one moment there was a bit of a mix-up between him and Davis allowed Gibbs-White to get in, and Gibbs-White probably should have done better with that chance. But other than that, I think he did pretty well.
Ben Davis up next. Him gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I thought it was decent from Ben. Was marauding forward and having shots from the edge of the area as well as Nottingham Forest sat deeper and deeper and deeper. But from a defensive standpoint, I think he did his job really.
Yeah, I think nothing too much to shout about. Again, I'll talk about that mix-up between him and Danso, allowing Gibbs-White to get in. That should never have happened. They should have dealt with that situation. But I think actually decent display when he came on. I think he just helped make sure that Forest didn't get any joy. And to be honest, they didn't get really anything on the counter. I think Davis was pretty decent.
Don Solanke up next. Him gives him a 5, as do I. And yeah, flattered to deceive a little bit. Didn't really impact too much things. As you said before, he just pretty much acted as a decoy to Richarlison. That's about all he did.
Yeah, and I think it worked, and I think he did his job. It was a bit of a selfless role for the team, but I think it kind of works. Richarlison was getting a lot more chances, but I think himself, I think he had a couple moments where he had a shot blocked and stuff. Didn't really trouble the defence himself in terms of getting in goal scoring positions.
And Brennan Johnson, Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. Yeah, I mean, a lack of threat, to be honest, on that right-hand side when we moved on to that 4-4-2. And just Odebear just looks like a winger that's much more suited to this system than Brennan Johnson is.
Yeah, I think we lost a bit when Odebear went off. I don't think it was the wrong decision, because I think Odebear was tiring a bit. But I feel when Johnson came on, he just didn't trouble the fullback, and especially you would think the fullback's tiring a bit potentially after Odebear's been running at him for the opening 70 minutes or so, and this could be a good opportunity for Johnson to come on and just go at him with his pace, and he just didn't do it. He just struggled to do it, struggled to impact the game, and wasn't great.
Yeah, and Ange Postecoglou, Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. Good and bad, you got to give him credit for the way the team kind of performed for the most part of the game. I thought we were the better side. We created bundles of chances against a Nottingham Forest side that don't give up chances, so you got to give him credit for that. But the reality is we keep conceding these stupid goals early in games, giving up big chances, big individual errors, which you can't really account for as a manager. But when it keeps happening time and time again, it's hard not to look at the manager. And too many goals we're conceding early in games. This one wasn't any different. We're 2-0 down within 20 minutes against a Nottingham Forest side, which on any normal day, most teams are not overturning that in the Premier League, no matter how good you are. This Nottingham Forest side are an unbelievable defensive side. So 18 losses this season has got to be taken into account as well when you're rating the manager for this game. So there are so many things going against him and so many unwanted records that he's going to be breaking this season. 16th, sitting 16th in the league. But if you're just going to look at this game in isolation, it's hard to put too much down on him in this game when you're just looking at the errors that Vicario made, the chances that we created and the chances that we didn't put away. On the face of things, just on this game, you're thinking, well, we did more than enough to draw, if not win this game. So if I'm Ange looking at this, I'm very frustrated. But the reality is similar things from a defensive standpoint seem to be happening week in, week out. So it's hard not to pin that down on the manager.
Yeah, definitely with the goalkeeper last few weeks, that's just really frustrating to watch. And there has to be, I don't know what we can say about the reason we keep giving away goals in the first 5 minutes and why it keeps happening. Sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes it's Ekitike with just an unbelievable bit of quality. Against Wolves, it's a massive mistake. Yesterday, another mistake from the goalkeeper, why it's happening. But it's just a trend. It's a pattern of us giving away these moments in the right beginning of the games, and Ange can't seem to sort it. But I thought we did play well yesterday. I thought the wingers, them together, was much better. I thought that winger partnership of Tellem, Odebear, much better than we've seen from out wide recently. I also thought his in-game changes of going to a 4-4-2 did help, and I thought it helped us create more chances and pen them in and get more chances for Richarlison. And Richarlison obviously missed a load of chances, which he definitely should have put away. But I think we played well. I'm really unfortunate not to win. But again, it is another loss. And again, those moments, we just give ourselves a mountain to climb, and we're doing it every week. And that's something that he has to be culpable for and take responsibility for when it keeps happening, for sure. So I can't mark him high after another loss. But I thought in terms of how we played and in terms of how he managed the game in terms of his changes, apart from maybe the Johnson one, which didn't really help, I thought the other ones did. So I thought his changes helped and we should have won the game.
All right, well, that is our player ratings for the 2-1 defeat against Nottingham Forest. We're going to move on and see what 5 things we learned from this one. And number 1 is Vicario worries.
Yeah, and it's another... Well, officially, it was a 1 mistake from Vicario. I think for the first goal, I think it counts as an error. But, if you're watching the game, definitely 2 errors from Vicario for this game. And when you put in, again, the offside goal where... he kind of fumbles that one as well and it goes in the back of the net. It was a very, very bad day for Vicario, who has been known for being a great shot stopper, but in the last couple of Premier League games, he's been really culpable for some terrible moments. If you go to the Wolves game, opening minute, shocking goalkeeping to allow Aït-Nouri to score that goal with a weak effort, should be saving it, causes the own goal for Spence, even nearly gifts Larson a goal where he got lucky with. And in this game, similar thing happened. He's culpable for 2 goals, and he could have gifted a third if Wood wasn't, I think, a shoulder offside. As well, coming for those crosses where he's completely nowhere near Chris Wood and allowing him to head it into an empty net. As much as defence is culpable, he shouldn't be coming flying out where he's getting nowhere near the ball. It's really, really poor from Vicario over the past few games. And even against Chelsea, there were some weird moments there as well. Not great playing out the back. And there was a weird moment where he comes to punch the ball straight up in the air when he could have caught it. So I don't know what's going on with him at the moment, Vicario. But I don't know if it's a mental prop thing or what it is. But obviously in Europa League he's been fine. But these Premier League games in recent weeks, there's just something wrong with him at the moment.
Yeah, is it a case of, struggling to get himself up for these kind of games where they essentially don't mean anything? I don't know. Is it time to put Kinski in for the Premier League games, get him a bit of game time? I don't know, but these worrying traits, these traits from Vicario are starting to worry me a little bit, and it seems to be happening week in, week out in the Premier League over the last couple of weeks. So he needs maybe a bit of time out in these Premier League games, because I don't know what's going on with him. But number 2 is sloppy starts. I mean, all these takeaways you could probably take away from the last 3 or 4 games.
Well, if you're looking at the facts, in our last 4 games, we've conceded in the first 5 minutes in 3 of them. The only one we didn't was the away leg against Frankfurt. So we've noted, I think, in some games that we've conceded early before this. I think the Villa Cup game we conceded early, and then you look at the Ipswich game where we could have, but we didn't.
Yeah.
I think the Chelsea game we gave away a chance in the first minute, but we didn't concede. So we kind of had conceded chances before then, but getting away with it a bit in terms of not conceding. But definitely in the last 4 games, we have conceded 3 in the first 5 minutes in 3 of the last 4. So we're definitely getting punished for those moments now, and I don't know why we consistently being so sloppy in these moments. Is really, really frustrating, and it's hard to put your finger on why it's happening. You look at the Frankfurt game, that was just that's a great goal from Ekitike, great goal from 25 yards, but you look at the game against Wolves, terrible goalkeeping from Vicario. Look at the game yesterday, shocking from Vicario as well. So there's and also the I think the Bournemouth game, we gave up a really good opportunity in the first 5 minutes as well, but without conceding, and we were quite lucky not to concede. And then what other game was it?
Didn't we concede a couple of early chances to Southampton as well at Tottenham?
There was one we conceded and then we scored straight away.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was first 5 minutes. It was quite early on, and then we scored straight after that. So we're just conceding way too many chances, and now to way too many goals in the first 5 minutes. And 5 minutes is just crazy early to be going down in a game.
Yeah, and this game more than the rest as well, because you just know how they set up and what their game plan is. And when you concede 1, never mind 2, early on to this Nottingham Forest side, it makes your job so much harder, because at least with other teams, you know that they don't have such a structure reliant on defensive solidity like Nottingham Forest have.
Yeah.
So when you're going 2-0 down to this Nottingham Forest side, you're on a hiding to nothing, really.
Yeah, but it's just crazy how literally in the first 5 minutes, it just keeps happening, and we have to sort out why we're starting games in this fashion so consistently. I mean, it's been, if you can't, I guess you could argue if you can't sort it out now, then you're never going to, because it happens so often. But the fact is, 3 in the last 4 games we have now conceded a goal in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it better not happen against Bodo. Number 3 is costly Richarlison.
Yeah, and Richarlison obviously did get a goal yesterday, and that is his 4th goal in his last 6 games, but it doesn't tell the full story of his game. In fact, he had 7 shots on the day, and the stats read he had 4 big chances, missing 4 of them. The goal he scored doesn't count as a big chance because it's actually quite a difficult header to score. So he actually scored one of his more difficult chances on the day. But 4 big chances he missed. He actually had an expected goals on the day of 1.46. But in terms of the stat, is his expected shots on target was only 1.05, so he massively underperformed it in terms of the quality of shot he was getting on goal. The one in the first half, that open goal, has to be buried into the back of the net. Really, really poor from him. And as much as he was getting the positions, he was getting the chances, unfortunately, because most of our chances fell to him, his misses pretty much were the main reason we didn't get a result in this game.
Yeah, but it was also one of the main reasons why we were getting chances. So it's a bit of give and take with Richarlison from this game, to be honest, because he's looked more threatening in this game than Solanke has for a while, to be honest, or pretty much all season. I don't think has Solanke ever had this amount of shots in a game for us? Probably not.
Can't remember. Don't remember. Has he ever had 7 shots in a game? I can check, but I don't.
And if he does, it's probably like once in his Spurs career. I don't remember him ever having this amount of shots or clear-cut opportunities as well. So at least Richarlison is getting into those positions and causing a nuisance for the opposition, and he's getting consistent goals at the moment as well, which is a credit to him. But in a game like this, or in any game, to be honest, when you're getting those chances, you need to be a lot more clinical, and that's what it's going to come down to. That's where people's frustrations are going to come from, is Richarlison just not being clinical enough and missing really gilt-edged chances, where if he puts away those chances, we more or less go and at minimum draw the game.
The most he's ever had in a game was 5.
Yeah.
And that was against Villa.
Yeah. So
when we beat them 4-1. So yeah, Richarlison had 7. So even in the minimal game starts he's had, was that his first Premier League start of the season? No, because he started against. But he only he must have can't have been a lot, because he started against Leicester. I remember where he scored. But he only had a small period where he started, I think.
Well, he scored 2 in his last 2 Premier League games. Wolves, he came on. He started against Brentford. He started against Leicester. He started against Everton, I think, or he came on at half-time against Everton.
No, he came on. He went off at half-time, I think.
Yeah, so
he came on at half-time.
Yeah, so I mean, he started a few games this season, but
that's his 4th start.
Few and far between.
So in 4 starts, basically, he's had a game where he's had more shots than Solanke.
He's played in 11 games this season, and he's got 5 goal contributions, and most of those have been from subs.
Well, a lot of people are saying maybe it's time to get him ahead of Solanke.
I think he'll start all the Premier League games, but I still think Solanke will probably be favoured for the Europa League games. 4th takeaway is Porro's crosses.
Yeah, and I thought Porro, with his delivery yesterday, was fantastic, and I think he was our main creative outlet. He was the one basically most likely to create a chance. He had 8 successful crosses yesterday, which is quite a lot to have, especially against a team like Forest, who are very well known for being able to deal with crosses. And the stats show he created 7 chances yesterday, which is an unbelievable amount for a fullback, and especially in this kind of game. And I obviously that also includes set pieces as well, which I think he created quite a few opportunities from corners. But I think Porro's crossing yesterday was absolutely phenomenal, and he got his, I think, how many assists now he's got? That was his 8th assist of the season. That was
just in the Premier League, or all comps?
All comps, that is, actually. In Premier League, he's got where is he?
6 in the Premier League.
6 in the Premier League.
He got 7 last season.
8th goal contribution in the Premier League.
So his assist rate is a lot stronger than last season, because he got 7 in 35 games last season, and now he's on 6 in 31.
Yeah. So in terms of,
but stronger.
But in terms of goal contributions, all comps is 11. He's got 8 now in the Premier League. So yeah, pretty good going, I would say, in terms of assists and stuff like that. And I thought it was another really good, strong showing on that front yesterday.
Yeah, from that aspect, I think it was very strong from Pedro Porro, but I do think he needs to be doing better from the defensive aspect of side of things. He is a right back first and foremost, but in terms of how he impacted the play yesterday from an offensive standpoint, it was brilliant. He really was. And his crosses and his corners are second to none, I think, in the Premier League from a fullback at this moment in time. I know you got Trent there, but Trent's about to go to Real Madrid, so I think apart from Trent, he's probably got the best ball playing ability out of any fullback in the Premier League, and it's showing week in, week out. And he's a constant threat throughout the game, whether he's playing balls over the top or he's crossing the balls in the box. He's brilliant from that aspect. So credit to Pedro Porro for impacting the game in that manner yesterday, that's for sure. And fifth and final takeaway is the French connection.
Yeah, and that goes to our wingers. So I thought it was really great to see them out wide playing together. I believe, off the top of my head, it was the first time we've seen them on the wings together. And I think it was really encouraging how they were able to really hurt the Forest backline, get beyond them. They created 6 chances between them, albeit 5 of them with Patel, 1 for Odegaard. But I think when you look at it, I think Odegaard created a few more opportunities as well without getting maybe the joy he should have got in terms of someone getting on the end of it. They completed 4 dribbles between them as well. And I think Odegaard had 2 accurate crosses. Matisse Tel had, how many accurate crosses was it? He had 5 accurate crosses for Matisse Tel. So I think when you probably compare that to what Johnson usually offers, and maybe even Son, it's probably a lot more than those 2. I think they were much better on the ball, driving at the opposition fullbacks, and much more have that ability to create chances. So I really want to see those 2 together more often, and maybe they could be our first choice pairing come the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll see about that. You know, you've got to remember Sonny's still at the club, currently injured at the moment. So I still think Sonny is, he is club captain at the end of the day as well. So I still think he's going to be the preferred option on the left-hand side when he is fit. But in a game like yesterday and the attributes that they do have, you got to say they are probably the 2 wingers that are most suited to an Ange Postecoglou system. That's what you got to say for sure. So yeah, I was impressed with both their performances yesterday. I'd still like to see more from them, to be honest, in terms of actually getting those numbers up and those goal contributions up. But I was impressed with what I saw in terms of being an outlet on the wings. So yeah, that is our 5 takeaways from the game. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and we're going to move on to see how the internet did react to the game yesterday. I'm not sure how much we're going to have for you, but first up, we are actually going to go to something positive, and that is Jamie Donnelly yesterday for Leyton Orient, firing his team into the playoffs, which is unbelievable for a team like Leyton Orient, who were, thought of just staying in the league this season. Unbelievable that they're sitting in the last playoff position with 2 games left to play in this current campaign. And just look at that goal from Jamie Donnelly to score the winner.
For some reason, it just reminds me of a goal you would score on NSS. One of those bouncers, but it's a brilliant volley, brilliant finish, and fair play to him. He's on fire recently after a slight dip in form after what was an unbelievable run he had a few months ago. He's looking like he's back on form at the moment. And as you say, in the playoff positions for Leyton Orient is incredible for them. And he's firing his way to it. And there's another brilliant. He's had so many wonderful moments with that left foot this season, hasn't he? So many bangers, and he's got such a sweet strike on him. And be interesting to see if he carries on this kind of form and what happens to him.
Two games left of the season, plus the playoffs.
Plus playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what we do with him next year.
Yeah. So after the international break, he got taken out of the team for 2 out of 3 games. He was a substitute. And since coming back into the side in the last 3 games, against Crawley, he scored a goal in a 3-1 win. Against Barnsley, he got 2 assists in a 4-3 win. And yesterday against Cambridge, he got a goal and the winner in a 2-1 win. And that means Leyton Orient now are currently sitting 6th on 72 points. Reading are 7th on 72 points. And Bolton are 8th on 66 points. So next 2 games are absolutely massive for Leyton Orient. So let's hope they can get into the playoffs, that's for sure. No context Tottenham. What's this all about?
This was them warming up. If the score's been cut out, it was 2-0 to Forest at this point.
Madison seems very happy for.
I know, and Johnson, they're all having a smile and a joke, and I guess it rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way.
Yes.
When they're warming up on the touchline.
And that's our vice captain right there.
Yeah, it doesn't sit right when you got I mean, look, I guess they have to stay serious when they're warming up. I guess that's what fans would want, but it's just not a great look when we're 2-0 down at home and they're just having a laugh and a joke on the touchline when we're warming up, they should be ready to come on.
You would suggest like your captain when you're losing 2-0 isn't going to be laughing and joking on the sidelines.
You'd like to think. I guess it's just not a great look.
No. Football Confidential says the points difference between last season and this season, not happy reading for Spurs fans. So we have got the biggest points drop in the Premier League from last season to this season, which is no surprise seeing as where we are in the league table, but a minus 23 points difference from last season.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a massive drop off. Even more than Man City won the league, way more than Man United. Yeah, bottom of the league. But it's also interesting to see, all those like middle teams how much they've improved. That like a lot of them, like obviously Forest, Brentford, Bournemouth, Palace. That's been like the story of the season. Those middle teams really improving. But 23 points is madness. That's how many wins is that? That's like so 21 is 7 wins. That's like 8 wins basically.
This one says Spurs players celebrating our title win next week. It's from a Liverpool fan.
It's like it's going to be our Aguero moment.
You know what though? It's just like we've known Liverpool are going to win the league for so long. Like it's not the same as last season where we were dying for Man City to win the league. Like now, Arsenal haven't been good enough to win the league this season, so close. It's just like it doesn't even matter.
But I did see it was quite funny. It was like there was one tweet I saw. It was from a Liverpool fan saying, he was quote retweeting our celebrations when we beat them 2-1 last year, and he said, it's poetic justice that we get to win the league against them after how they celebrated this game or something. And I was just thinking, like, just not realize like we absolutely want you to win the league. Like in fact, like a lot of Spurs fans are looking forward to you winning the league against us. Honestly,
yeah. I mean, the reality is though, is like most Spurs fans wanted us to lose against Man City last year, but this year, I mean, who wants Liverpool to beat us next weekend? Nobody.
Are you sure about that?
Why? Why would you want us to lose?
So they confirm it.
Liverpool are going to win the league, whether they beat us or not.
I tell you, if Arsenal don't win tomorrow, then I'm happy for Spurs.
I want Spurs to win this weekend. I've got no reason to want Liverpool to win this weekend.
No, I do. Obviously, I want Spurs to win, but a lot of Spurs fans call it a win-win.
Yeah, I mean that's just because everyone knows we're going to lose, so it's just like saying, "All right, fine, it's a win-win."
Yeah.
Next up is from Gunner Runner, I think it is. Says Gunner. Oh, Gunner.
No, he's definitely a runner.
Spurs fans are going to celebrate losing to Liverpool on the weekend, and Ange is going to combust.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some. I don't know what the narrative is going to be. Do you reckon Ange will be asked about it in his press conference?
Probably.
Do Spurs fans want to win? Yeah, a little bit just to wind them up, 100%. Surely it can't happen again. This situation like that. We thought last year was like a 1 in a million chance, and it potentially happening again this week.
Well, it's not the same though, is it? It's nowhere near the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Spurs Army says the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was far from full ahead of kickoff this evening. I mean, even on TV, you could see just so many empty seats.
Yeah, there was a lot, and that's only the south stand. You could see in the other stands as well. There was a lot of empty seats yesterday, so it wasn't a great turnout.
Euro Expert says, looking at Spurs fans' opinion on Telt is wild. It's either he's incredible or we absolutely should not sign him. I mean, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't think he's been incredible. I don't know if we should sign him or not, but I'm not in either of those camps, to be honest.
I think we should sign him, but I think we should renegotiate the fee. Probably, I think 50 million, which I think depends how desperate they are to sell and all. If he really wants to come as well, I think probably a lot depends on if we win that Europa League, whether he wants to stay here or not. Like, does he want to stay here if we're not in Europe and all that kind of stuff?
But assuming that, we've spent 10 million on his loan fee for half a season. Surely the max we should go to is what, like 30 million, 25 million, something like that.
I wouldn't mind spending 40 million on him.
That means 50 million.
50 million total package, yeah. I think, look, for a player of his potential, his age, the position, I just feel like if we don't sign him, we're going to be regretting it.
Isn't 40 million the buy option anyway?
It'll be 50 on top of what we have.
No, I think it's less than that. They said it's like 50 million euros, which is like 45 million.
Well, 50 million euros plus, including plus the 10 we've already spent. So it'll be 60 million euros total package. Right. Well, look, I think we should try and I think we should sign him. I like what I see. I think there's a lot of potential there. You got to remember, he hasn't played a lot of football this year, and he's getting better, in my opinion. I just feel like there's a talent there, and it's a talent we will regret not pursuing, I think.
Spurs Connect says Matisse Tell is the type of player who gets you on the edge of your seat. He looks very comfortable as a left winger, has to be starting moving forward, offers much more in attack. If we can negotiate a lower fee with Bayern, would be great business. Exciting player. Yeah, I mean, it is hard to disagree, but we're still like, we need to see more from him.
Yeah, I think, look, the guy's only 19 as well. I've got to remember, he's only a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, for what he's showing, like, for a teenager, I think he's pretty good.
Spurs Watch says Bergvall is genuinely our best player.
He literally is. He literally is our best player. Do you think at this point, if Decky, let's say Decky last few games never doesn't hit his top form, has he got a big shout then for Player of the Year?
I'm trying to think of other candidates. There are not many.
Not many, no.
It can't be Romero, Van de Ven, Porro, maybe.
Maybe Porro? But a lot of people were saying he was having a horrible season up until a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I know, but he's been one of our better players. That's how bad we've been.
Maybe Maddison? I could say Maddison. Maybe Johnson, our top goal scorer. Brennan. I think Bergvall's got a great shout because since December he's been great.
It's true.
Literally hasn't had a bad game since December.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Bergvall's definitely got a big shout for it. Who has been our best? It's such a hard one this year.
Who's been our best player? Yeah.
Who's been our player of the season?
I want to know, chat. Yeah, I want to know in the chat who's your player. If you voted player of the year right now, who's our player of the year? I want to know what people in the chat are saying.
Who are you voting? Let's say for now, who would you vote player of the year?
If it was right now, I'd still just about give it to Decky, even though he's been out of form for a bit.
But Decky, let's be real with Decky. Like, how long was he actually good for? 2 months.
He was good for quite a bit. Even in the period where we had injuries, he was still getting regular goal contributions. Maybe even without playing that well. And then for about a month before he got injured, he was pretty bad. Maybe a bit longer. But I think Bergvall. I think right now I'd still give it to Decky, but I think there's enough time between now and the end of the season where Bergvall could easily top that.
I think Kulu was good for about 3 months this season.
And manager of the season, someone said.
Right.
Who'd you give it to? Chris Davis.
Manager of the season.
Ryan Mason. Our manager of the season.
We don't have a manager of the season.
We don't have one. Do we have a manager? Someone saying Brennan or Kulu. Bergvall says Cantab.
Yeah,
Cancel this year's player of the year, someone said.
Yeah, probably right. Anyway, next up, Mr. Black Football says Spurs versus Nottingham Forest highlights. George says the stadium's half full. Then he commented saying, "Are you at the game?" George says yes, and then he says, "Sorry to hear, mate."
Poor guy to sit through that. Just like me. At least I had some glasses of wine to keep me company.
The Tottenham feed says March 18th, 2024. Tottenham fighting for the top four, sitting in 5th, 8 points behind 3rd. Nottingham Forest were 18th in the table and just slapped with a 4-point deduction. The swing in the last 12 to 13 months is colossal. That is absolutely mad when you think about it.
Yeah, to think that they've got. I think did they stay up on the last day or near the last day? They get their
points deduction
overturned? Wasn't it overturned?
Wasn't it?
Yeah, they got slapped and then it got overturned. I think did they? I can't remember now.
I think it did get overturned, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so as well. But yeah, Forest, unbelievable. And they've built a really good team there. And you look at their team, there's, to be fair, you look at their team, there was a lot of players we were linked with, wasn't it, in the summer? Murillo, we were a lot of linked with.
Milenkovic,
we've been linked with Elanga and Hudson-Odoi as well. In their midfield, Gibbs White, heavily linked with Gibbs White.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a moment where it looked like we could have got him, wasn't it? Yeah. And when they had PSR issues and we didn't push the
Brennan Johnson off them,
and we took Brennan instead. So you look at that team. There's it's a great team. I mean, there's a lot of players that we could have had in our team for sure.
Yeah. The screenshot lad says Tottenham lose at home to Nottingham Forest and are 16th in the Premier League with 1 point ahead of 17th in the Premier League. I just never thought I'd see this day again where we're so low down in the league. Just never thought it would come to this.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought those days were behind us, but
here we are. All right, this tweet might take a while to go through. This is a very long tweet from Johnny H.
Oh, God.
He says, may I present Ange Postecoglou, our record-breaking Spurs manager. You ready for this, Sib?
Go on.
35 defeats since November the 5th, 2023, and our 10-game unbeaten run. 22 defeats in all competitions this season. Most home games conceded first in the calendar year 2024. We went 1-0 down in 15 home games during 2024 calendar year, the most ever by a Premier League team in a single year. Worst home winless run since 2008, and now it's 2024. We went 5 straight home matches without a win in the Premier League, our longest winless run at home since 2008, a year that also saw us pick up their lowest Premier League points total in a calendar year, which was 52. Shots faced in a calendar year 2025. In the first 11 games of 2025, we faced 167 shots on goal, averaging over 15 per game. This is more than 40 shots higher than any other Premier League club in all competitions during that period, including the relegation sides. Still a long way to go on this. On course for our highest number of losses in a single Premier League season, with 18 currently and 19 being our worst ever, which was under Ozzy Ardiles, and you expect that's probably going to be 19 this weekend against Liverpool, and probably will be over that by the end of the season. Most goals conceded in the calendar year since 2008. Longest run of consecutive Premier League defeats in 16 years. We had 4 consecutive Premier League losses between late January and early February 2025, a streak not seen since the 2008-2009 season. Most goals conceded in all competitions in a season. By February 2025, we had conceded 57 goals across 39 games in all competitions, averaging 1.5 goals per game, a figure worse than all but Leicester and Southampton. And they're on 62 and 63 respectively. We're on 57. 3 North London derby losses in a row, the first time since 1989. This has not happened in 36 years. It's happened on Ange, and it's been accepted by so many of you. Our worst points tally at this stage of a season since 2009, 16 years. 0-0 with part-time side, with a part-time side 96 places below us in 90 minutes, a club who literally play part-time footballers working in retail. We've now lost 6 games pre-international break periods: Wolves, Fulham, Newcastle, Brighton, Ipswich and Fulham again. We have now faced more shots in 2025 than any other team in the Premier League. Our only home win in 2025 come from Southampton, who have been relegated, and Manchester United. We have now lost the most home games in their history, 8 in a standard 38-game season. We are currently on track to lose 20 games in a single season, the most ever recorded. Our Premier League points per game average is at its lowest, which is 1.11. Please stop making excuses for the worst manager we've ever had. Regardless, if we win the Europa Trophy, it will be despite him, not because of him.
Well, you can't just say if we win it, he doesn't get any credit for it.
That's what Johnny H is saying.
Yeah, I think that's a bit ridiculous. If you can't give him, you can't say this is all Ange's fault.
So that's the one thing you go to, not any of the negative stuff.
Yeah, I get all that. I'm just saying. My only point is all that negative stuff he's saying. He's saying that's all Ange's fault. But if we win the trophy, that's nothing to do with him.
Well, regardless of winning the trophy, we haven't won the trophy yet. So let's talk about what's actually been. But
that was his point. Yeah,
done.
Yeah, it's shocking. Obviously, what can I say? It's absolutely terrible.
It's madness. It's madness that he stood in a job. That's what's mad.
Yeah, but if we win that trophy, it will be worth it.
If. It's a big if.
It's still, we're not far away from it.
We're not far, and we're getting closer and closer. We need to beat Bodo. Hotspur reports, this was a quote from Carragher last night saying they're so naive, like an academy team. That's what he's saying about Spurs.
Well... Fair play. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that might be true.
The next one is the points difference that we've been through. Spurs Connect saying Tottenham have now 18 losses in the Premier League. End the season. Well, in the Premier League season, that's for sure.
Yeah, come on. You don't want to end the season just yet. We're still in the Europa League. Come on.
Spurs talk show. Shawnee gives us some takeaways from the game yesterday. He says Odegaard is better than Johnson. Tell better than Son.
Ooh.
Bentancur is nowhere near the 6 some of you say he is. Sell Sarr, Bentancur, Bissouma as all not fit for purpose and replace him with one monster 6, for example, Edison. And should have played Danso as Wood's aerial threat too strong for Van der Ven and Romero. Decky is not match fit. Richarlison scores 1 but should have scored a hat-trick. Sell. Porro, awful defensive positionally. Best 11 is clearly obvious. Vicario, Udogie, who's that? Van der Ven,
yeah.
Romero, Porro, who's RB? Bentancur for now. Who's LB? Lucas Bergval.
Madison or Decky.
Tell, Odegaard, Solanke.
It's so obvious he had to put a slash on Madison and Decky.
Yeah,
that's
so
how
obvious.
That's how obvious it is. He can decide.
He says Bentancur's nowhere near the 6 some of you say he is. I mean, is anyone saying that he's that monster 6 that we crave? I haven't seen that from anyone.
No, I think he's played quite well in the Frankfurt games, but yeah, he hasn't been consistent. That's the truth.
Yeah. Jay just says mate, and they brought this up. Apparently, Will Still was ripping Ange a new one on Sky Sports last night.
I haven't seen it.
Defeats 17, home defeats 7, clean sheets at home 2, away defeats 10. Goals conceded 49, expected goals against 53.8, points versus the top 6, 3 out of 30. Wow, that's mad. Ranked no higher than 14th, and we are 16th. So, yeah, very shocking to be honest.
Just depressing.
Spurs Express says Spurs could break some unwanted records in the coming weeks. They need to avoid losing 2 more games to not have their most defeats in a single season. They need 8 more points if they are to surpass their worst points total in the Premier League era. They've already suffered their most home defeats in a 38-game season, but another 2 home defeats would surpass their worst total in a 44-game season. That's just mad, man.
Also, that was the last one there, but I thought I liked this, but apparently I didn't. But if you can you refresh it and go to the top? There's an interesting thing I want to discuss, because this is the second journalist I've seen say this. This is Matt Law saying Forest will fully deserve a Champions League place if they get there, but it will be ludicrous if Tottenham join them through the back door. And he's basically suggesting that it's ludicrous that Europa League winner is being given a Champions League space, and they won't deserve it if they win the Champions League. And that's off the back of Ian Ladyman, who was on a podcast for the Daily Mail last week, saying it's a disgrace that the Europa League winners get a Champions League spot, and it's pure elitism and it's favouring the big clubs, that kind of thing. But I'm like, but do you agree with that? That it's a disgrace that Europa League winners get a Champions League spot?
No, I think it puts more emphasis on the Europa League, and I think that you only hear these narratives when Spurs getting close to doing something.
All of a sudden, it's a disgrace.
I've never heard it. I've never heard this kind of argument or complaint before Spurs were in the semi-final.
And also, is finishing 5th in the Premier League any more deserving than Europa League winners of getting a Champions League football?
5th? No, not 5th.
You know what I mean? And so why isn't 5th being called the back door?
I brought up the argument not long ago. I don't know if it was on the channel or I was just speaking to someone. But I don't think that top 4 in any league should be Champions League football. I think it should be top 2. That's what I think. I think top 4. I don't understand why 3rd and 4th should be playing Champions League football. I think it should just be for champions and runners up. Like, I think it would make the competition a lot better.
Well, I think it's a great competition. I like it. I like how it is.
It is a great competition, but it's the Champions League. Like, it should be just for elites. You know what I mean? Like, why should, if you finish 4th in the league, get you a place in the Champions League?
Because it's an elite competition. What are you saying? There should be the Europa League should be
the Europa League 3rd and 4th, and the Champions League 1st and 2nd, and it would up the quality of the Europa League, and
make Champions League a smaller competition.
Yeah, and I think that would be better.
But then they'll
less football as well.
I mean, I'd go for that. Sure, get a less competition. I don't know how many teams would be in the Champions League. I don't know how it'd work with a group stage and knockout and all that kind of stuff. It'll be smaller.
It'll be smaller, but I just feel like that's what the Champions League should be about. It should be about the best couple of teams from each division, and the Europa League also would up the quality of the Europa League as well, and the Conference League.
All smaller competitions, make them all smaller. It's never going to happen,
It
unfortunately.
will never happen because they're too focused on money. But in terms of you're looking at this Conference League and
it's a nonsense.
Everyone's looking at it like a nonsense,
Mhm.
right? But actually, if they did that, it would rise the stock of the Conference League and rise the stock of the Europa League as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I just hate this narrative like winning the Europa League is make it through the back door, and you're winning the second biggest European competition, and that's
Also,
that's
the
through
second
the
worst
door.
European competition.
Well, it's 3 competitions, but the second biggest one, and
Yeah.
and it's always been seen as quite a good trophy. Like no one sees Europa League as a bad trophy.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden, because Tottenham are close to winning it, they'll make it through the back door. Whereas if you're finishing 5th, that's absolutely that's not through the back door. That's like deserved.
Yeah, it is deserved. But it's just hard to say Spurs deserve anything out this season when we're going to be sitting in 16th, 17th.
I understand that, but if you win the competition, then you deserve it.
Yeah.
It's winning a competition. Why shouldn't you deserve it?
Yeah. Let's go and win it then.
Oh, absolutely, we have to win it. Just saying, if you win a competition like that, I think you should deserve to be in the Champions League.
But look, that is how the internet did react to the game yesterday. Next up, I want to talk about this Decky interview. I think it was with Matt Law? Yeah.
No, it was with
Dan Kilpatrick, I think it was. Quite an extensive interview after the game. And we'll bring up the quotes from it. And he first says, Decky says Spurs were not prepared to compete on multiple fronts this season, underlined by their winter injury pile-up. He says the top clubs have been doing it for many years. And when asked why Spurs were struggling for consistency, he says they know exactly what they're doing. He's talking about the clubs. They bring in a lot of players and they're ready to play both competitions and they're prepared for it. This year, we cannot say that we're prepared for it because we had so many injuries and we did a lot of things wrong from the beginning of the season, and we're paying for it right now. After big nights like Thursday, you always go down. That's why teams are in more competitions and are paying a price. We're not handling it right. We're not handling it well because after 16 minutes, we'd conceded 3 goals with the offside goal. And then it's hard to win football games. It's not good enough. Then we played some good football. If you're not doing everything right, you will not win games. I can't speak for everyone. I'm talking about me. I know after a big night like that on Thursday, you come back 5 a.m. and you're going to feel disastrous. So you've got to find things to pick yourselves up. It comes with experience. I felt great today, and that's good. The manager said for the first 15 minutes cost us the game with corners and free kicks. It's not good enough. We've got to improve. We've got to improve from crosses. I know we defended good on Thursday, but we concede too many crosses, and everybody must take responsibility and ask themselves why we concede so many crosses. And then he asked what he meant about Spurs doing a lot of things wrong early in the season, and he said, we had a lot of injuries. Injuries don't happen for a reason. That's what we did wrong. I'm not sure what he actually means by that. He says, I don't know, but can you get what he meant to that? Because he's saying that Spurs did a lot of wrong. Then he's saying injuries don't happen for a reason. That's what we did wrong.
I think he means don't happen for no reason.
Yeah, probably does mean that.
That's what I'm guessing he means.
And what do you reckon he means like that? Injuries don't happen for no reason.
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, Ange said in an interview, didn't he, recently, that maybe the beginning of the season they did things wrong in terms of bringing certain players back early and stuff like that. And maybe, obviously, we've seen this season the amount of players who have come back and got re-injured very, very quickly. I think that I don't know who you put portion of blame of that. I've always said when that keeps happening, like it has done, I don't know who you blame, but definitely there's something wrong in the process of what we're doing because we're bringing players back. It happened about 4 or 5 times. We're bringing players back, and then in their first outing, they're getting injured again. And they're injuring. I don't know if they're re-injuring or whatever, but they're getting injured and they're out for even longer than they were out previously. And that happened. I think Odebert happened. Obviously, Van de Ven Romero happened. Richarlison it happened. So it's happened a number of times this season. And whoever you blame, there's definitely clearly something wrong with that process. And I think that must be something towards what he's alluding to, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And on top of that, like Scott Munn was said to have rebuilt the whole medical team and sports science staff at the beginning of the season. It just seems getting worse and worse.
Yeah, that's big problem. So clearly there are things done completely wrong at the beginning of the season when it comes to Maybe what Andrew's doing, which he's admitted, and also a lot of what the medical team. I don't know what they've been doing. They're definitely doing something wrong.
He goes on to say that the semi-final is very important. I can't say nothing about it, but like I said, you've got to respect the game. You've got to play every game like it's your last. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to play against Liverpool, do our best. And then the Europa League, like I've always said from the start of the season, we have got to win this competition. We have the quality to do it. Like you saw on Thursday, when we play Europa League, the build-up to the game is real. I felt great, honestly. I'm so angry about the result, but I've got to see the bigger picture. I'm back, I'm healthy, and we've got important games coming up. So I've got to stay focused. I took my time out so well because I had to accept it, and I had more time to be with my daughter and my wife and do other things in life. It still worked extremely hard because I know when you come back, it can be hard, but I did all the work necessary to feel good. Right now, I did everything right. But I guess the thing to talk about is what he said at the beginning when he said that we've not prepared, the club haven't prepared itself in the right way for this season to challenge on all fronts in the league, in the cups, Europa League as well. I mean, we've said it a number of times, but I guess we're going to talk about it again. But when you're looking at players like Decky, who have been at clubs like Juventus and Romero and all the big players that we have, Bentancur, all the big players that have been in top clubs, and then they come to Tottenham and you have a season of finishing 5th, and then the next season you're finishing, 16th, 17th, wherever we end up finishing this season, and you're going into a season unprepared in the second season under a new manager. Like, it's just schoolboy stuff.
Schoolboy. Well, it's a massive screw up. I think if that's how the players are feeling, then I'm sure he's not the only one. And obviously, we saw in the summer we let go of a lot of experienced players. We brought in a lot of youth. Obviously, Solanke came, but we brought in a lot of youth players, which I didn't mind bringing in a lot of young players, but we didn't do enough to fix a lot of the holes in the squad, and as well to make sure that we have enough basic experience when we need to rotate. And I think we've seen, even lately, when we do have our first 11 there, we can be quite a good team. But when we rotate, when we have all these injuries, it's been a massive shit show. It's been, we've struggled massively. And I think, you can see, I mean, we were saying it at the time, but definitely in hindsight, you can definitely see that the summer was just a massive disaster, how it's panned out. And we're now going to be on the cusp of our worst ever league finish. Look, we could win that Europa League, which will give us a lot of joy. But in terms of how we've juggled the Europa League and the Premier League season, we just haven't juggled it, really. It's like we've got one ball, just continually throwing it up and down, and we haven't been able to juggle any sort of anything together, any of these competitions.
How can so many people see it from the outside, from the fan base, and from inside the club? They can't see what's going on and not see that they're going into a season underprepared. How is that even coming about? I just don't get it. And it's not just this season; it happens year in, year out.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's been a consistent problem with this club, hasn't it? It's been a problem forever, always. So,
when are we just going to go into a season fully prepared for a season? It's just madness.
To be fair, I do think most. I mean, obviously, we're doing a lot worse than most, but no one's going to really be. No one's really challenging on multiple fronts really this season, you would say. I think you've seen a lot of teams struggle in a lot of various competitions, but no one's really been able to seem to be able to juggle multiple in an effective way.
No one does it as consistently bad as Tottenham.
Yeah, it's probably fair as well. And look, you've seen Romero. He spoke out in a similar way, didn't he? Against, I mean, we'll talk about it, his new quotes later, but previously when he spoke about against the board, he said, you look at the other teams and how they improve their teams every year, and we don't do that. And that's an absolute shot at the board, isn't it?
Yeah. And when are they going to sit up and actually note and listen to these concerns that players have consistently under different eras as well at the club? You heard Danny Rose and other players talk about it back then when Pochettino was our manager, and that was when we were going through our best moment ever in the Premier League history. Now we're going through our worst moment in the Premier League. Literally, it's going to be statistically our worst season in the Premier League era, and we're still sitting here with the same kind of thoughts and worries about the board about going into season unprepared.
And the big problem is, I think back when we were maybe in the White Hart Lane, and we hired Pochettino and we were buying young players and stuff. We were kind of ahead of the curve a bit in terms of we were quite smart. We were getting smart acquisitions. But now you look at the teams in the Premier League, like the likes of Brighton and Bournemouth and Fulham and Villa. Teams are getting smart, very, very smart, and we're no longer anywhere near ahead of the curve. We're way behind the curve now in terms of how we operate, and it just feels like we've been whereas before maybe we were quite a smart team. Now you've got so many smart teams who have got so many clever processes in terms of recruitment and finding smart value in the market, all that kind of stuff. We're just lagging so far behind at the moment in terms of all these operations.
And that was proved in the summer when they made this whole hullabaloo about Spurs. And now we're going to go to a data-led approach,
Revolutionary, bringing
data-led approach. Spurs are going to be going down that path. And we're like, yeah, everyone else in the Premier League have been doing this for years.
Yeah, literally. And I think you can see all these teams are getting very, very smart, even though they're smaller teams and maybe less money. They're operating in a much smarter way than we are.
And the longer this goes on, the more disgruntlement Spurs players are going to get. And our big players and our players that are ready to do things here and now, like the Romeros, like the Deckies, like even a Pedro Porro, a Bentancur, these kind of players who are our senior players, they're not going to stick around for this. They're going to look at what's happened to players like Sonny and Harry Kane and being like, look, this club ain't serious. I want to move on now. I want to do something with my career.
100%.
So that is the Decky interview. We got a super chat just now from Mr. Phil P. Big up to you, Phil. And he says, how often will Daigle return before the new owners? How long's a piece of string, my friend?
Come on, Daigle. Big up.
All right. And we're going to move on now, and we're going to go to a Tottenham update. And the first thing we're going to talk about in this Tottenham update is Mr. Cuti Romero, as Tom Allnut says that Tottenham would probably demand a fee of at least £60 million to sell Christian Romero this summer. I do feel like it could be a bit more than that, seeing as we bought him for 50 million at the time.
Yeah. It depends how difficult he makes it and all these different things. But I think, look, there is maybe a 60 plus a few add-ons. If I know he wins I don't know, maybe there'll be something there as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a base fee of 60 plus add-ons or something.
And there's this interview from Cuti Romero that's doing the rounds. A lot of people talking about it on social media yesterday. The full interview hasn't been released, so there is an interview that's going to come out over the next couple of days. It's an interview that Tom Allnut says that was okayed by the club, but it was all organised by Cuti Romero. And so the quotes that we do have is the reporter says, what's next for you? What do you plan for your career? And he says, well, I try above else to always live day by day. There are almost 2 months left until the end of the season, and my focus is always performing at my best and trying to finish the best way possible. We're in the Europa League semi-final, which is an important step for the club. After so many years of not making it this far, I can say I'm happy because in the end, I'd like to win it, because it depends on many things. But yeah, after this season, when the season ends, we'll see. Honestly, I haven't spoken to my agent yet, but I'm open to anything. My mindset is always about growing, also about the new places to keep developing, but I don't want to talk about that just yet because we are still a few months before the season ends. And then the reporter asks him, which league that you haven't played in would you like to play in based on how you see it? And he says, yes, the league I'm missing is Spain. I'd love to, honestly, La Liga. I'd love to play there because it's one of the leagues I haven't played in yet. And a lot of Spurs fans are getting very angry. But I would say that a lot of Spurs fans are getting angry at that with only small snippets of that interview being released, when I think people weren't reading that whole kind of snippet on it. And Tom Allnut said on that interview that Spurs were aware of the interview that Cuti Romero did with Argentinian media that was circulating around social media in recent hours, which took place at Tottenham's training ground. The club will not be taking any disciplinary action against Romero for the interview.
Well, if they okayed it, then they can't really do that. But in terms of what he said, as much as there's obviously a bit of context to it, but it obviously doesn't like to doesn't not add fuel to the fire when there's all these links to Atletico and going to Spain, and all of a sudden he's asked, where would you like to play? He goes, yeah, I'd like to play in Spain. So like, it obviously adds fuel to the fire, and it makes a lot of sense because you know that Romero isn't happy at the club. I think that's obvious at the moment. As much as he's going to try and put his all to win this Europa League, and that'll mean a lot for the club and him personally because it's a trophy he'll have on his CV. He's been on record about how unhappy he is about how the club is run and all these different things, and it doesn't surprise me when you hear these words from him that his head's he's obviously not committing his future or anything of that stretch of the imagination. I think he's probably laying the groundwork to leaving in the summer, to be honest, and I don't really blame him.
Yeah, look, I see that, but I mean, when you're talking about where you want to play in your future, I mean, it's just not the time to do it right now when we're trying to build up to a semi-final of the Europa League. He's supposed to be the vice captain of the club, and we've seen him put in shockers in the Premier League, which looks like he's checked out in those specific games. From a vice captain of your club, this is not what you want going into like the biggest weeks of what we've seen since the Champions League final, really, since 2019. We haven't had a bigger game than this, the semi-final of the Europa League. So I mean, I think fans are probably well within their rights to get frustrated and angry with these kind of comments. It's just the timing is completely off with all this. Why not organize this interview? Why not organize it at the end of the season once it's all said and done?
Maybe he's putting pressure on Tottenham or Atletico or one of the two. I don't know. I don't know what.
Why now? Why in the week building up to the semi-final?
Couldn't tell you what the timing is for any of it. But it obviously is not. Definitely doesn't sit right with me and a lot of fans that he's doing it now, and he's getting these words out there. And I'll be interested to see what he's going to say in the full interview, if he's going to mention the club again, all that kind of stuff, because he wasn't shy about it last time, and this time it's on camera. It wasn't on camera last time, so
well, I'm sure the club know exactly what's been said in the interview, and they're saying they're not going to have any disciplinary action with any of the words that he said. So I can't imagine it'll be too bad against the club.
Yeah, probably not, but who knows?
Because he faced disciplinary action for the last comments, didn't he?
Can't remember. I think Ange said, did he get fined? Can't remember.
Well, Ange said they're dealing with it internally.
Yeah. So, look, Romero is not usually one to mince his words. He's usually quite honest. We'll see what he says. But when it comes to him leaving in the summer, I think it's bound to happen. I just can't. I think it's obvious that he's going to be on his way out. And as much as I'm frustrated, and hopefully he leaves out the front door, not the back door, by winning that Europa League, and then he'll leave as I don't know about a hero, but he'll be known as, not the captain on the day, but one of the main players that led us to a Europa League trophy, and that doesn't count for nothing. But I just hope it doesn't get ugly. That's just what I'm hoping for.
I think it will. I think it will get ugly. And I think, like, if Daniel Levy is up to his old tricks, how he makes it very difficult for players to leave if they want to. Look at Christian Eriksen, for example, how difficult it was for him to leave and stuff like that. Romero ain't one just to let that happen. He'll kick up a stink. Don't get it twisted, So, look, I don't begrudge Romero for wanting to leave, but what I do begrudge him for is the way he's kind of going about things on the pitch, particularly, only in the Premier League games at this moment in time, and also for organising an interview a week away from, or just over a week away from, our biggest game since 2019. It's just like, when you're a vice captain of the club and you're wearing that armband in the Premier League games at this moment in time, like, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what are you doing? Like, why would you? Whether it does put it in jeopardy or not, which I don't think it will, but if there is a slight chance to, ruffle a few feathers with that, between him and the fan base, why are you doing that before a semi-final of a European competition? There's no need for it. Like, if you want to kick up a fuss to leave, do it when the season finishes. There's no need to do it now.
But you're saying, with the context, is he kicking up a fuss to leave with those comments?
Whether he's kicking up a fuss to leave, he's mentioning it and he's talking about it, which there's no need to do it. Like, he's just causing too many questions and conversations which we don't need at this moment in time.
Yeah, but as always, it's not going to go away, is it?
but you don't need to talk about it right now in the
He was
build-up
asked.
to a
He was asked, where would you
semi-final.
like to play?
Yeah, he doesn't need to answer it. He can just... He's the one that organised this interview. He knows these questions are going to come up.
Fair.
He's asking for it. That's what he's asking for, these questions.
Well, I don't know if he's asking them to ask certain questions.
But he knows what questions are going to be asked. Not specifically, but he knows these kind of things are going to prop up in an interview that he organises.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Romero he's not going into this blind, you know what I mean? He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, of course. Of course he's not going into it blind, but like, yeah. I mean, but I guess he could put it away as like he was asked where would you like to play where you haven't played before, I think was the actual question. And he's played in Italy and he's played in England, so where else is there left?
You got to think about the motivations behind this interview. Like, Romero's not one that consistently speaks to the press, is he? Like, he only speaks when, you know, he wants to speak. That's Cuti Romero. He's not like someone like Decky who's speaking all the time to the press, or a Maddison or someone like that. Romero only he's a clever guy. He only speaks when he wants to get stuff out there in the open.
Well, he doesn't have great English, I think, is also part of it.
No, this interview was done in Spanish.
That's what I'm saying. He did, but I'm saying Decky can go and speak to one of the English reporters. Romero can't really do that.
Yeah, that's also fair, but I still feel like, you know, with the interview last time about when he said those comments about the board, like, because he wanted to get something out there. This time he wants to get something out there again. So I think it's very tactical from Romero, all this.
Yeah, you're probably right about it. And that's how these things are done these days, I think, a lot of the time. But yeah, I agree. A week before the semi-final, it's not a great look, but as long as he plays well, it is what it is.
People are saying, I've just seen it in the comments, which reminded me of a tweet I saw, that it's got shades of that Harry Kane interview with Gary Neville. When
he ended up staying that summer.
He did end up staying, yeah. But the thing is, the difference between Cuti and Harry, I think Harry had more respect for the club than maybe Cuti does.
Do you reckon Levy and Romero have a gentleman's agreement?
I think after Harry's gentleman agreement with the club, no player's ever having a gentleman agreement with the club again.
Either it's in writing or it's nothing. Yeah, look, I think Romero is destined to be gone in the summer. I'll be very surprised if he's here beyond. You never know. Football, a lot of people seem destined to leave and they end up staying. It happens, but I just can't. I find it very difficult to see a world where he's a Tottenham player next season, whatever happens. All right.
Let's move on to the rest of the update. And actually, something's just come through from Matt Law surrounding Ange Postecoglou. And he says there is a growing sense that Ange Postecoglou is likely to leave Tottenham at the end of the season, regardless of the outcome of the Europa League campaign, neither through being dismissed or mutual parting, either through mutual consent or being dismissed. And I think that's probably the right course of action, to be honest, winning or losing. I think if he does win the Europa League, go out on a high and be done with it, and let's just move on.
Yeah, I was saying as well, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he resigned after winning, and he can stick his two fingers up to the media and everyone who's made fun of him for saying trophy in the second season, all this kind of stuff. And he can go out on a high, and also has his reputation, as much as this league season's been absolutely atrocious, is still intact, because he's, at the end of the day, he would have finished fifth and then won Europa League the following season. So I think a lot of clubs will probably be looking at thinking, we'll give him a go, I think, if he does do that. So yeah, I think at the moment, it's not looking great for him in terms of his long-term future. It's understandable. But at least if he wins Europa League, he'll have something massive to show for it, and that would be a major European trophy. But it'll be interesting to see where we turn, because I'm looking at these options about taking us into a Champions League campaign, and I'm just not massively enamoured by a lot of them. But I just saw one of the things saying Johan Lang apparently is a big fan of Thomas Frank, and we're going to be looking at him. But whether, I think it's in Johan Lang's future maybe up in the air, depending on Paratici, if that's still on course and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's so much to be decided, I think. As well, you know, Scott Munn could be out the door, so I don't know what kind of role he had in any of the footballing decisions or not, but he's potentially out the door with V9 coming in now. So I think there's a lot to be decided. But as well, we know when people I know Vina is more of a money man, but he is coming in as CEO, And we know when these kind of people come in as decision makers, they always want to make their imprint. So a lot of the time, you know, the head coach in those points does their days are numbered after that, when those things kind of happen. That's definitely a case as well, I'd say. So I think that's obviously part of it. But look, I think the main thing is the league campaign. That's obviously going to be his undoing.
Yeah, and I think that should be your barometer for where you're at as a football club. And I think with the players that we've got at our disposal, with or without the injury crisis, we should never be where we are. And I think it's a complete embarrassment. We're sitting here in 2025 and we're going to be having our worst ever Premier League campaign. It's an absolute embarrassment.
No, it's fair. It is embarrassing, but it won't be embarrassing if we win that Europa League.
No, but the Premier League campaign will still be embarrassing, regardless.
But this will this season be remembered as our worst ever Premier League season?
I think it will be remembered as a classic Spurs of winning a European trophy but having our worst Premier League
It's just
campaign.
Classic Tottenham, where we're so desperate to win that trophy and the 1 year it could actually come is in a season we've had our worst ever Premier League season.
Also, you're looking at it and you're seeing all the comparisons now between Ange and Ozzy Ardiles, right, for the worst Premier League campaign. And whenever it comes back to it, whenever we're looking bad, it will always be compared to Ange Postecoglou. So he will always be remembered for this Premier League campaign, always.
Yeah, but there will also, on top of that, you would say, well, at least Ange won a trophy when you're doing those comparisons.
Yeah, but, you know, one day Ramos, and I know it's not the same trophy and it's a much less caliber trophy, but one day Ramos and George Graham won a trophy for us and we're not exactly looking back at them fondly.
No, it's true.
So,
well, Ramos won multiple UEFA Cups. He was a great manager, just not at Tottenham.
Spurs fans don't look at him fondly.
Same as George Graham was also a good manager, just not at Tottenham.
We don't look it back at him fondly.
Right, but
we chased him out of the club.
What's the common denominator?
The common denominator? What is
Tottenham? Is that we don't look at it, apart from Poch, Redknapp, and Yol, we don't look at any manager fondly.
That's true. Yeah. Anyway, next up, we are going to look at a few potential transfer rumours. Footy Insider says that Tottenham are weighing up a 30 million summer offer for Renato Vega of Chelsea.
Really?
That's what it says.
All these transfer, I find it very hard to get engaged in these transfer rumours because I just think until the new manager's sorting all these different things, it's just so until we know we're in the Champions League or not. I think all of these things are just I don't know if we're actually planning for these things right now. But Renato Vega, I actually don't think he's a bad player, but I don't know about.
I don't even know what position he plays.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's played multiple centre back, left back, centre mid. He can play all three. He's quite versatile. I don't think he knows his best position right now.
Next up is a report on Pedro Porro by Graham Bailey. And he says that Spurs would entertain the possibility of selling Porro for more than 50 million this summer. Tottenham have been wise with their financial arrangements, but like most Premier League clubs, they are always considering PSR, and Porro could be an option to sell as a result. Spurs are looking to bolster their squad in almost all areas, and to do so, they will likely need to cover their incoming purchases with a sale or two. Man City have kept their tabs on Porro's progress, and they are in need of a new right-back to replace Kyle Walker this summer.
Yeah, I think if I was City or Liverpool, if he's available, I'd 100% be looking at him. 100%. I think he's class. I think he gets a bad rap. I see a lot of fans get frustrated and think he's not good or stuff. I think he's quality. I know defensively, he's not the best. There are better right-backs defensively than him, but to have that kind of quality in your team, fullback, that's what a lot of teams are looking for. And you look at even the one that's going to go to Madrid now in Trent, he's not even, I'm not saying he's Trent level, but he's, in terms of the profile of play, he's not dissimilar to that. And you know, he would fit right in at City. I think he would fit right in at Liverpool. I think we should keep him if we can. I don't think we should sell him.
Do you feel like if Porro was to leave, then it will be a bit similar to when Kyle Walker left the club? Because when Kyle Walker left, like, he was out the team for Trippier. You know, Trippier was starting a lot of games at that moment in time, and everyone at that time was like, you know what, we can sell Walker, we got Trippier. You know what I mean? And then Kyle Walker went on to become one of the best right backs the Premier League has seen. Do you reckon that could happen with Pedro Porro?
Well, I think Walker, it's a bit different just because I think Walker was already the best left back in the league. I think right back. Yeah. So when we sold him, I don't think many people wanted to sell him. Actually, I think people were trying to make the best of this bad situation.
It's not that we wanted to sell him. Most fans wanted to sell him, but most fans were just like, oh, we got Trippier. It's not the end of the world.
I don't think people realise what a blow would be to sell him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I think he's I don't see too many right backs with the quality he has on the ball. I really don't in the Premier League. I think he's got unbelievable quality. I think he's underrated defensively as well. I don't think he's the shit show defensively a lot of people think he is. I think he's not the best in the league for sure, but he's not like this massive liability. I think that everyone says he is. I think he's a quality right back, and I think if he goes to Liverpool City, he'll become the best in the league. I think.
And then a few fullback Spurs have been linked with. AS in Spain says that Spurs are among the clubs tracking Fiorentina fullback Dodo, with their interest picking up ahead of the summer window. Barcelona are also keen, and in fact the Catalonian Giants are believed to have placed the Brazilian at the top of their shortlists as they actively search for a new right back. I mean, it's not a player that I know too much about, but I know he's having a very good season at Fiorentina.
I think we've been linked with him a few times.
Well, when he was at Shakhtar or something.
Was it Shakhtar? Yeah. Obviously, if we're selling Porro, then it's going to be something we have to look at, isn't it? Replacing that position. I think in terms of high profiles, quite good at dribbling. He looks like more of a dribbler than a passer, like Porro is. He's what age is he? 26. He's not even young. That was just quite interesting. Not particularly tall. He's short, 5'5", very short.
Porro's not tall though, is he?
No, but he's not that short.
How tall is Porro? I thought he's fairly short, isn't he?
I would say I would guess he's like 5'9". Let me see. Pedro Porro. There you go, 5'9" exactly.
So and Dodo's what, 5'6", you say?
5'5".
5'5".
He's very short.
What's Lisandro Martinez? Because he's bloody short.
He's about 5'9" as well.
What, Lisandro Martinez is 5'9"?
I think so. 5'10".
Really? Wow. Maybe it's just because he's a centre-back.
Yeah, that's why.
All right, well, that's Dodo. Another fullback that we are linked with is Ola Aina of Nottingham Forest, caught offside, saying that Tottenham are now eager to sign Ola Aina, with the Nigerian's performance this season catching the eye of a whole host of Premier League clubs. I mean, he's been brilliant, Ola Aina, but is he the kind of right back we need at the club?
I actually thought he was quite good before Forest. I think
Where was he?
He was at. I know he was at Fulham for a bit. I think he was at Benfica as well. I remember there was a lot of talk about him going to different clubs before, and then he was kind of quite hit and miss. I remember he was part of that Fulham team that got relegated. But I actually like him. He can play both wing backs as well, both full-back positions. Obviously, he's shown he's quite a good defender this season. I actually think he's quite good going forward as well. I do think he's 28 now though, so he's not like young. I like the idea of him as like a backup for both fullbacks, but I don't know if I would want to sign him as a starting player potentially.
Well, if we were to sign him, it'll probably mean Jed Spencer's our starting right back.
I wouldn't mind Spence and Udogie with Aina covering. That's not bad. I think he's been brilliant with Forest as well. Yeah, absolutely.
He's probably had the best season of his career this season.
For sure.
Brilliant. And last but not least, following Burnley's promotion to the Premier League, their option to buy Marcus Edwards has become permanent. Sporting have been the clause in the contract has been triggered, so he has to sign for Burnley now this summer, which means Spurs will receive £3.5 million owing to a sell-on clause.
Come on, boys. We're absolutely rolling in it. What are we going to do with it, you reckon? Going to go towards the hotel?
I think Daniel Levy's
couple extra floors in the hotel.
Vinay's new bonus.
Vinay's new bonus. Those dividends just got a little healthy kick. Love it. Go on, Levy. He must be popping the champers.
Yeah, well, that's that. And actually, last but not least, Football London have said that the Norwegian FA have made some changes to the fixture scheduling to help Bodo out before their cup tie with Tottenham, which means that they're going to have a completely free week in the build-up to the semi-final, and something like the Premier League, which would literally never do.
Yep, obviously, I think they're the first ever Norwegian team, aren't they, to be in a semi-final?
Must be, yeah.
I think so. I think that's what they said. So they're probably bending over backwards to try and help them out, which is something that other leagues do. And obviously the Premier League, they've never done it. They never will do it. They couldn't give a crap, I don't think, the Premier League about how well their teams do in Europe.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Alkmaar did the same thing before they played us as well.
Yeah, I know they definitely did have a free week. I don't know if they moved anything around, but I remember they had a free week before we played them. Well,
I mean, it seems as though like every single league helped their teams in Europe apart from England.
mm-hmm.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
In fact, England, they try and make it harder.
They don't care. They care about the Premier League revenue, and they don't care about Europe. It's not their business. It's not their. Obviously, it heightens the profile of the Premier League if their teams in Europe do well. But at the end of the day, they're not going to move a TV slot. If the TV slot means they believe there's going to get more viewership on that TV slot, they couldn't care less where in Europe. Even if 2 days after, they couldn't care less. That's when they're going to put it, and that's it.
All right. And that's it for the Tottenham update.
People are wondering what our heights are.
What our heights? I don't know.
You don't know how tall you are?
No, I don't actually.
Never measured? Never.
Not for a very long time.
Got the tape measure out? What do you think you changed your height in the last time you measured?
I really don't even remember the last time I hit my height. So I think
I'm 5'8".
I'm probably about something similar to that.
I think I'm 5'8".
I don't even know who's taller, me or you.
Don't know. So we doing this?
Back to back.
We doing it?
And we go back to back. All right.
Who you reckon? What do we reckon, people?
Who's taller, do you reckon? Who is taller?
Am I?
Yeah, slightly.
Coys.
Maybe the hair.
It's the angles.
It's the hair.
It's the angles.
Let's go, lads. Shoes off. And I've got my shoes off as well. I actually have my shoes off.
So do I.
No, Ben's got his shoes on. He's got high heels on. What's that about? Oh, here we go, lads.
There's a super chat here from Isaac Newton Jr. Said Romero says, I don't want to talk about it, but then he did talk about it. Romero in front of the media reminds me of Dragashin's agent.
Yeah, true. Maybe Romero should be Dragashin's agent.
Yeah, Dragashin definitely needs a new agent. All right, are we finishing on review the Prem then, are we?
Darren Fearon says Sim is 5'8" on stream and 5'0" in real life. You bastards.
All right, we're going to finish off the stream on review the Prem, where me and my brother go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. We have a scoring system, which is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. Star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist, and as you can see on screen, 314 to Sim, 345 to me. And as the weeks progress now, Sim is getting further and further into the mud on Predict the Prem. And we've also got a bet on, don't we, in terms of Southampton. Southampton
Yes.
need 1 more point this season, and Sim will have to do the next episode in Fancy Dress. We've had 2 Fancy Dress bets before. I've lost both of them, so it's time. It's time for revenge.
There's one team I can rely on losing. It's usually Southampton. So.
Against Leicester? Surely they could get a point
maybe,
against Leicester.
Maybe Leicester might be a step. Well, Leicester drew against Brighton, though, so you never know.
Anyway, let's look back at the weekend's action, and let's start off with Brentford 4, Brighton 2. Brighton really off the boil at the moment. I went for 2-2. You went for 3-1. What did you make out of this one?
Yeah, and I think the game pretty much went as I expected. Brighton, lots of kind of possession, and Brentford kind of waiting for them and killing them on the counter. And you saw Mbeumo with the first goal, brilliantly strode right through the heart of that defence. Great finish. Obviously, he got a brace. Wissa. I don't know if there's 2 better attackers in transition than Wissa and Mbeumo. They're just so deadly, strong, pacey, and actually good finishers as well. So fair play, good win for Brentford. Brighton will be very frustrated with how the season's ended, because it looked like they were going to have a really positive end to the season, and it's just kind of gone wrong for them right at the death. So they've now not won in 5. Poor result, poor performance, and deservedly lost the game.
Yeah, and they were kind of losing their heads a bit, Brighton, in this game as well. You know, a lot of arguments, bookings for arguments, and João Pedro getting sent off for violent conduct as well.
Yeah, which was poor form from him. He's had a few moments this season, João Pedro. A bit of a hothead, isn't he? So, yeah.
Next up is Palace 0, Bournemouth 0. Sim went for 2-1, as did I. A red card for Crystal Palace. in the first half for Richards for a double booking. And then it was just pretty much just batten down the hatches, get out of the game with a draw. And that's what they did.
Yeah, I think Palace have some very valid complaints in this game, though. Very valid, because there was 2 moments in the first half. Alex Scott was on a booking. He then goes through the back of, I think it was Sarr, who was running towards the Bournemouth penalty box, and the referee gave him a final warning and didn't decide to book him, which I thought was a ridiculous decision. And then, literally a minute later, one of the Bournemouth players gets past Richards. Richards has the slightest tug on him, the slightest, and he gives him a second yellow card, which I thought was a ridiculous decision. Then in the second half, another Bournemouth player does exactly the same thing on a yellow, and he doesn't book him. Yeah. So I think Palace can feel rightly aggrieved that they were down to 10 men and Bournemouth weren't down to 9 when the referee was being extra harsh on them. So I think they were kind of harshly treated on that aspect. But it was kind of looked like a game of 2 teams not in great form, and obviously Palace were in great form up until the last few games, and now they've kind of not won in 3. Wasn't a great performance from them, especially at home. Bournemouth got a draw. Look, a draw away at Palace isn't a terrible result, but it wasn't a great performance from them.
Yeah, Palace 3 red cards now in the last 4 games. Not sure what's going on with them, but I guess the 2 came in a feisty derby against Brighton, and then this one, was a bit unlucky. But anyway, moving on to Everton Man City. It finished 2-0 at Goodison Park. Both of us went for 1-1. I mean, Everton were holding strong pretty much right until the end of the game. O'Reilly, another goal for him. He's looking really good. And then Kovacic sealed it off in stoppage time.
Yeah, big win for City in the race for Champions League. I didn't expect it because I think Everton have been, very good since Moyes has come in, and very tough to beat at Goodison Park. I think, is that their first defeat at Goodison? Well, I think they actually lost the first game against Villa. But fair play to City. They stayed patient. It looking like it was going to go 0-0, but 2 late goals, 2 good goals as well. So fair play to them. Really good win. Do you back them to get that fifth?
Yeah,
fifth
I think
place?
I do now, and I'm looking at their fixtures as well. I think they got the most favourable out of all of them.
Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, look, if it was not top 5, would they have made it? Do you think?
It would have been touch and go. I think they're definitely in the top 5. Whether they're in the top 4, I don't know. I'm looking at Newcastle and Villa, which we'll get into in a bit later in the episode, but they're both looking good. I know Newcastle got battered this weekend, but with Villa without European football, I think it's Newcastle, Man City, and Villa. I think they're all going to make it. I think Forest might drop out.
Really? Even after, wow. Big call. I think you might be right, though. I reckon Forest could bottle it, because they weren't even that great yesterday.
No.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. Next up is West Ham 1, Southampton 1. We both went for, big West Ham win, Sim 3-0. I went 3-1. And, Bowen scores at the beginning of the second half, and you're thinking, all right, standard, Southampton bottling it once again. But a 93rd minute equaliser for Southampton, which led to a bit of a tirade from Fulkrig after the game.
We don't play football. Why don't we play football? The manager wants us to play football. We don't play football. We were shit. That's what he said. We were shit.
And they definitely were. Happy. And they definitely were. And they're shit week in, week out, West Ham. And you're thinking, even with being shit week in, week out, Southampton at home surely is going to be 3 points.
Do you think the fact that United and Spurs have been so bad has just led to West Ham just going a bit under the radar at the 100%. Moment into how bad they've actually been, and especially 100%. Since Potter's come in?
100%. Because I think West Ham sitting in 17th with the team that they have, I think it's ridiculous.
Look at the players they got. Kudus, Bowen, Paqueta. Fulkrug's a good, I know he's been out for a while, but Fulkrug, Todibo, Kilman's a good defender. Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
I was predicting the beginning of the season to be challenging for Europe. They were such a great team. And they've been worse than even Tottenham and United, which is mad to think about because of how bad they've been.
But still worse.
Still worse. But still, I think they've been getting away with murder this season in terms of how much coverage they've been getting. I guess maybe because West Ham, it's not like that unusual for them specifically to be in a relegation battle and stuff like, or near that place in the table. But still, they've got you look how they compare their teams. Even you compare their teams to the like of Brentford, Bournemouth, Fulham. You'd much take a lot of those West Ham players in that squad. So it's madness. And drawing at home Southampton, wow, what an unbelievable result for them.
I know. And now Southampton are 1 point. They're currently on Derby's record right now.
Yeah.
They need to get 1
Derby
point.
fans must be absolutely gutted.
Yeah,
They
I
look so-
was listening to one of the old Derby players on the radio a few last week or 2 weeks ago, and he was like saying the whole squad and the fan base are just focusing on Southampton's results week in, week out, hoping that they take the record off them.
Do you reckon the old Derby squad just huddle around the TV watching Southampton like, please, come on, like celebrate wildly whenever they lose a game. That doesn't look like it's going to happen for them.
No. Next up is Aston Villa 4, Newcastle 1. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 1-1. And I was really surprised how good Aston Villa were in this game. Ollie Watkins put in a really top display in this game. And, you know, it was 1-1 after the 20th minute. And then after that, Aston Villa just took complete control and just wiped the floor with the Newcastle side, who have been wiping the floor with everyone else.
They kind of just blew them away in a 10-minute spell, didn't they? 3 goals in 10 minutes in that second half, where it was fairly tight. Obviously, Watkins' first minute got the goal. Newcastle hit back and looking like a fairly even game. Then just out of nowhere, Villa just exploded into life. And a few clever substitutions from Unai Emery inject a little bit of kind of intensity into their play. And they were devastating for those 10 minutes. They could have been more as well. They were absolutely brilliant. Fair play. Unai has this way of tinkering in games, and sometimes it doesn't work, but when it does like that, you know, it can be devastating. And what result and what form they're on as well. Off the back of getting knocked out to PSG, you're thinking, is that going to affect their morale and stuff? But just going from strength to strength, brilliant result, brilliant performance. Maybe a step too far for Newcastle, who have been in brilliant form. But Watkins was some interesting comments after the game, talking about he's one of those players who's always going to be battering down the manager's door when he's not playing. And he was fuming, he said, not to have played more against PSG. 20 minutes over 2 legs he played, which is, you know, to be fair to him, he's got a right to be annoyed because he's been unbelievable for them for the last 2 years. And especially on their biggest night, you know, all his hard work's basically led to that moment. And over 2 legs, he's gotten 20 minutes.
Yeah, and also he came on last week against Southampton, completely changed the game. He was, you know, he pretty much inspired that victory against Southampton. In this game as well, he's been unbelievable in a 4-1 drubbing of Newcastle. I just don't understand why he hasn't got more games in that PSG, because I feel like he's the one player that can stand up in that 9 position and just hold up the ball and bring others into play. So, yeah, very unfortunate for Watkins, to be honest.
A lot of Villa fans are worried that he might be off in the summer.
Yeah, and he very well could be. If I was him, I'd be looking for a way out, to be honest. As much as Villa are going in the right direction in terms of on the pitch, but Unai Emery showing a bit of disrespect, in my opinion.
Yeah, he should have been playing him in those big games. Look, he's their best striker. He's got to be playing on the bigger occasions. Even though I know Rashford played quite well, he's got to be getting more than 20 minutes.
Why can't he find a way of getting Rashford and Watkins in the same team?
Yeah, it's very surprising.
Like, play Rashford off the left and play Watkins up top.
If I'm Liverpool, I think there's a slot there at Liverpool.
Yeah, maybe.
And Arsenal as well. Obviously, we know about Arsenal's interest in him. So I think both those clubs, I think, as long as Villa don't ask for anything too extortionate, considering he's, 29 now, I think either of his teams he could really fit in really well there.
Yeah, and Villa probably could do the money for PSR as well. And next up, we go to the West London derby. Fulham 1, Chelsea 2. I went for 2-1 to Fulham. You went for 1-0 to Fulham. And it looks like you were on your way to a 5-pointer all the way until the last 10 minutes with a bit of a snatch and grab from Chelsea. George coming off the bench and getting a goal. Pedro Neto with a stunning goal to win it in stoppage time. I really like the look of this Tyreek George. I said it when I first saw him a couple of months back. And
scored in the Conference League?
Yeah, he did score in the Conference League. I think he's a really good little tricky player coming through the ranks at Chelsea, and he proved it on the Premier League stage on the weekend.
All the money they spent, they relied on an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
They had to come off the bench and score. And fair play, it was a nice finish as well. Snapshot, just out of nothing, fell to him and he buried it. So fair play. And that obviously laid the groundwork for a comeback. Didn't really look like Chelsea were going to come back, although they did have some chances. Neto had a good chance before they equalised. But it looked like it was going to be just another kind of loss. Like Fulham were quite comfortable, I felt, for a lot of it. Although Fulham themselves didn't do much. They got the goal and didn't do much after that. Kind of just sat on the lead and risked it.
We were watching all the games here, and apart from the Arsenal, there was just literally nothing happening.
Yeah, it was just
the game.
It was just very dead. But Chelsea, they snatched it with 2 goals, 2 quick fire goals, and bam, massive win for them in their possibility of getting Champions League. So fair play, especially away at their rivals. Really great result. But what was quite interesting was at half time, there were chants of wanker towards Maresca as he went down the tunnel. And apparently in the second half, there were chants for Frank Lampard in the away end.
That's embarrassing.
It's mad, isn't it? I mean, considering that, look, they're only 2 points behind third, 3 points behind third right now, so they could even finish third this season.
But out of all the people to shout for Frank Lampard, like, why Frank Lampard? He was a great player for Chelsea. He's had 2 tenures as manager. I mean, why would they want Frank Lampard as their manager?
Especially the second spell was one of the worst spells of any manager ever, I think. I think he had 10 games, he lost 8.
It's like, I just don't get Chelsea fans. Like, they're just a strange bunch, man.
They're sitting 3 points behind third, and they want a manager who lost 8 and 10. That's who they want in charge.
Like, they've got Todd Bowley in, and there's chance for Roman Abramovich in the Chelsea zone. It's like, you know, an owner isn't someone that you can just buy or sell or just bring in. Like, why are they chanting for Roman Abramovich? And second of all, there's like having protests against the board where he's only been in the job for like a year and a half, 2 years, which is ridiculous in itself. So entitled.
Coming close to 3, I'd say.
Yeah, fine. So 2.5 years, whatever. Like, so entitled, the Chelsea fans. And now they're singing for Frank Lampard, who was one of their worst managers. And just because he was a good player at Chelsea.
3 points off third. It's like...
Yeah, but they have been stinky this second half of the season.
They have been, but it's like, I understand there's bad form. And look, to be fair, they've been really bad. There's no getting away from it. But is it at the stage where it's like, you know, sack everyone, get rid of everyone? Is it that stage?
The reality is they should never have sacked Pochettino, or they should never part ways with Pochettino. Pochettino was finally starting to get a tune, and Maresca kind of fed off that at the beginning of the season. It's all fallen apart since. Like, they should never have sacked Poch.
If they don't get Champions League and they somehow fail,
Sim's mic's gone again apparently.
If they is it back?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with him if they fail to get Champions League and they somehow don't win that Youth Conference League. If they fail to win it, it'd be very interesting to see what happens.
You know what though? That final of the conference, everyone's saying Chelsea, but that final against probably going to be Betis. Betis are a very good side.
And Fiorentina have been not bad as well this
season.
season.
Both of them. I think Betis will win that semi-final, but it could be one of the two, right? Chelsea will get into the final. They got like Jugardens or something in the semi-final. But that in a one-off game against a Betis or a Fiorentina, the way Chelsea are playing this season is not a given.
Considering they just drew with Ipswich not long ago.
Yeah.
You know, there's no guarantees they'll win that game.
Yeah. So that is Chelsea. We move on to Ipswich against Arsenal, which finished 4-0 at Portman Road. Sim went for 2. I went for 3-1. Yeah, I mean, this one was just an absolute battering, to be honest. They went 2-0 up. Leif Davis gets sent off, and then they get another 2 goals in the second half. I mean, it was just one-way traffic.
Horrible challenge. The only worry would have been for Arsenal would Saka have got injured, but luckily he managed to play for another hour or half an hour or so.
Did have an ice pack on after
He did. They'll be worried about that going ahead of the PSG game. But look, easy does it for Arsenal. Fair play, 4-0. Won it, simple win for them. Ipswich on the brink, not mathematically down just yet, but very close to. They're 15 points with 5 games, so 1 point essentially to go before they're down. Interesting, decided to rest or drop Liam Delap for this one, but I guess I don't really know why he would do that, but maybe he's saving him for a move. I don't know. But in terms of Arsenal, I guess we'll get into predictions later. But they got a win on Tuesday to keep their things alive.
Delap's been out of the team for the last couple of games. It wasn't just this game. He didn't start against Chelsea either last week.
But didn't he score against Chelsea? No, he did not score.
He came on.
No, he came on. Oh, interesting.
He didn't score though.
Maybe he said he wants to leave, and that's that.
Maybe. Next up is Leicester against Liverpool, which finished 1-0 to Liverpool. We both went for 2-0. I mean, Leicester are poor. Liverpool are also poor, but they just get over the line.
Yeah. It was a really poor performance from Liverpool. I know they had that chance right at the beginning of the game. Salah hit both posts, but after that, they just barely did not, should they? Yeah. Barely like created too many quick opportunities against a Leicester team.
I know, but the story of the game is them getting over the line, getting the 3 points.
Yeah.
1 game away from the title. But the real story of the game is Trent.
Yeah.
You know, he comes on, he scores the winner, goes straight over to Liverpool and takes the booking, taking off his shirt. And with all the kind of noise surrounding Trent, with Liverpool fans putting signs up outside Anfield and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. Did they boo him when he came on, or did they boo him at all yesterday?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't listening to the crowd.
It's only right for them to show him the utmost respect of what he's done for the football club.
So, was that a goodbye goal, or was that a I'm staying moment?
It was a goodbye goal.
It was a goodbye goe
for sure.
I think so as well. I don't think there's any smoke without fire. It'll be a lovely moment for them to have that at least before he leaves. So fair play. But I do think this is kind of the definition of stumbling to the title. They really are just about getting over the line in these games. And it'll be interesting to see how I think they're showing a bit now that they just do need a bit of refreshing in the summer and a couple of additions to really improve this team. But yeah, Trent, nice moment for him, nice goal. But not great performance again from Liverpool. Leicester officially relegated.
Yeah. Next up is Manchester United 0, Wolves 1. Sim went for 1-1. I went for 2-0. And you know what? Man U were the better team in this game. They should have got a goal at least, or more goals, and took something out of the game. But the game just kind of got decided on an unbelievable free kick from Sarabia.
Yeah, brilliant free kick. Mason Mount had some really good opportunities. He's got to be putting one of them away. Obviously, he made a lot of changes. Amorim vowed to play the kids, and he did play a few of them in this game. It was a pretty dead game, albeit Man United were the better team from what I was watching. They didn't seem like to be doing loads, but they obviously definitely created a lot more than Wolves, and they probably should have had a goal. Wolves definitely scored against the run of play, that's for sure. But it's a brilliant free kick, and fair play to Wolves. Fantastic win for them, and now up into 15th, and now a level on points with Man United. In fact, there's 3 teams on 38: Everton, United, and Wolves.
Yeah. The race for 13th is on.
The race for 13th, big, massive.
And last but not least, Tottenham 1, Nottingham Forest 2. Sim went for 1-0 to Tottenham. I went for 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. So I get a point on this one. Look, it was a decent display from Spurs. Definitely should have taken more out of the game, but look, it all comes down to 2 things. First of all, the individual errors from Vicario that put us 2-0 down, and the big misses from Tottenham, which they should be putting away their chances. So it's just a very frustrating day all round. Yeah,
and you give a team like Forest a 2-0 head start, you're always going to make it so difficult and a mountain to climb to get back in the game. And so it proved in the end. Forest, with what was a stumbling race for top 4, got the 3 points they needed just to keep themselves, in that position in 3rd place. Don't think they massively impressed, albeit they got those 2 early goals, and you could see they were fighting for it for sure. But they didn't play that well, and I think if they play like that going forward, they're going to come unstuck, I think. So they've got to be very careful. They've been in the top 4, though, for so long. It'll be a massive disappointment for them at this point not to get Champions League, and it was a great win for them. Tottenham will probably be massively aggrieved they didn't get anything out of this game. They should have. But when you make the mistakes that you do, that we have done, then you're going to get punished for it.
Star men, Sim went for Mohamed Kudus, 0 goals, 0 assists. And I went for Matthias Cunha, who got 0 goals, 0 assists. So I think I gained 1 point on you from last weekend, which makes it 32 points is the gap going into game week 34.
Look, all I'm saying is you should never celebrate too early. I've been guilty of that, so that's all I'm saying.
Well, Liverpool have been celebrating for weeks on end. It seems like they'll be all right.
I see. So you're Liverpool, are you?
In this, yeah.
Well, maybe.
In this season, I am.
We'll see. Maybe you're Arsenal.
Well, if I was Arsenal, then I wouldn't have won the majority of Predict the Prems to date.
Fair point.
Let's make a few predictions for midweek. We got a game tonight, Man City against Aston Villa. Sim's gone for 3-2 to Man City. I've gone for a 2-2.
Yeah, I think Man City, buoyed by a good winner, Goodison. I know Villa had a brilliant game against Newcastle, brilliant win. But I just see, De Bruyne were looking for that last hurrah. I see Villa, as much as they're a good team, they're just not great defensively, and I can see them opening up Villa. So I went for a 3-2.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this game tonight. I think it's going to be a really good open game of football. Man City back on track. They're playing well. They're getting consistent points. Villa are playing some sensational stuff at the moment and getting consistent wins. So I think this is 2 teams on form going head to head. Couldn't really split them. Albeit if this was at Villa Park, I would have gone for a Villa win. But Yeah, I just didn't know which way to go. I was thinking 3-2, but I just landed on 2-2 because I just can't see Villa losing at this moment in time. But I couldn't see Newcastle losing on the weekend, and they got absolutely battered. So, yeah, I've just gone for 2-2. But yeah, I'm very looking forward to watching the game tonight. And tomorrow is Arsenal against Palace at the Emirates. Sim's gone for 1-1. I've gone for 2-1 to Arsenal. I feel like at the Emirates, Arsenal just going to have a bit of the edge over Palace, who, I don't know, they're a bit up and down at the moment, Palace. They were going for a really good run of form. The last couple of weeks have just been a few drop points from them. And I feel Arsenal just riding a bit of a wave with Saka back in the side. They've still got over a week to go till the game against PSG. I feel like they'll make more players, they'll rest more players on the week. Oh, actually, they're not playing on the weekend, are they? This is their last game before PSG.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
So actually, yeah, I didn't even take that into account. I thought they were going to play on the weekend. But look, they probably will rest a few players on Wednesday night, but I still think they'll just about get over the line.
Yeah, I just feel 1-1 for Arsenal has been a safe bet recently. And I feel the way Palace set up with the back three, they're going to make it very, very difficult. They're not going to give up the chances that some of the other teams who've played Arsenal. I think when Arsenal play these kind of more pragmatic teams who don't give them the space, they struggle a bit more. So I've gone for 1-1 and a frustrating day for Arsenal. Does that give Liverpool the title mathematically, or do they have to lose?
I think it will, won't it? If they drop points, are Liverpool champions?
So at the moment, it's 13 points. So if it's a draw, there'll be 12 points with 4 games to go. They'll have 4 games. So technically not. If they lose, they will, though.
But a win against Spurs gives it to them.
Or a draw, yeah.
Or a draw, yeah. So that is it. Sim ends this week on, what was it? 317. I end it on 349 going into game week 34. Let us know, do you think Sim can make the miraculous comeback? It's been done before, just not by Sim. But we'll see you all tomorrow for some more content. We've got a panel show coming tomorrow, so keep your eyes peeled out for that one. Around 2 o'clock we'll go live. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.